You know
this
what?
one's church.
Judging Georgina's. Let me see if I can go bring.
Good evening. I would like to call to order this council meeting of June 8, 2023 at 6 o'clock p.m. You'll notice that the dais looks a little different this evening due to the verbal and physical intimidation by Councilmember Jimenez at the last meeting and a subsequent concern for the environment created and potential for harm. We're making a slight adjustment today and going forward for the ease of conducting business. Mr. City Clerk, if you can please take roll.
Councilmember Jimenez. Councilmember Melendez.
Here.
Councilmember Tamayo.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta.
Present.
Mayor Torres.
Here. Mr. City Attorney, if you can please announce the closed session items and read the statement on public comments on closed session items.
On tonight's closed session agenda, the City Council will consider the following in closed session. Item number 1 is conference with legal counsel with regards to anticipated litigation. This conversation is authorized under Government Code Section 54956.9 subsection D subsection 2. There's one matter involving infrastructure engineering. Item number 2 is public employee appointment. This conversation is authorized under Government Code Section 54957. The position is the city manager's position. And I'll read the following statement regarding public comments on closed session items. At this time, the public may submit a public speaker card to the city clerk's staff for closed session items. Prior to the beginning of this statement, speakers will be called in the order received. Please be aware that the maximum time allotted for members of the public to speak on closed session items shall not exceed 3 minutes per person. State law prohibits the city council from taking action or entertaining extended discussions on a topic not listed on this agenda. Please show others courtesy to others and direct all your comments to the mayor and city council. That is all.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Mayor, we do have one speaker card for closed session item. First speaker is Will Severo.
Alrighty, in Council, Will Severa. For item number 2, I would like for you guys to actually have a good conversation in closed session regarding this, because obviously everybody's going to have a different opinion. However, there was obviously multiple issues regarding the previous contract on how the dais would be able to work with the staff and find out issues. And sometimes you guys may come across some issues in the street and you could call staff and include the city manager, and it looks like your guys' hands were tied when the power was given away. If you guys are going to be doing the appointments, it would be nice to see you guys kind of revert back to where you guys do have power, obviously not to abuse it, and maybe put in some instances to show that somebody cannot abuse their power or favoritism and things like that. Because at the end of the day, we elected you guys, whether now we're in districts, but still you are elected by the people, and they're looking at you guys. They didn't vote in a city manager. And I don't think anybody voted for anybody specific due to who your city manager is. They're looking at you, if they could be trustworthy and if they believe in you. The reason why I bring this up is some people will try to say, the city manager is like the CEO. At the end of the day, the CEO still has to listen to the board members. And just to prove that point, Apple had Steve Jobs and the board ousted him out. Why? Because the board has more power than the CEO. The CEO must listen to the staff, and we have too many amendments in there with extra perks and separations where it's an easy task where anybody can create a lawsuit, tie us up, litigation, so we're gonna settle because it's cheaper. However, we need to provide, well, you guys are policymakers, so provide a policy so we can reduce our risk. We have a lot of exposure. We have over 6 lawsuits, and I'm sure each of them are gonna cost over $2 million. And it's not an endless piggy bank. Thank you.
That concludes all speaker cards for closed session items.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and we will recess into closed session at 6:04 p.m.
Is it Chinatown or? What's happening, Arlie?
If the audience will please take their seats, we will reconvene this meeting at 6:31 PM. Mr. City Attorney, can you please give a closed session report?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, with all 5 members of the city council being present, the city council met in closed session, and discussed item 1 and 2. City staff made presentations on both. City council provided direction. No final reportable action was taken. Nothing further to report, and that completes my report out of closed session.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. This evening, our city clerk will provide the invocation, and as this is her first full meeting as acting city manager, our acting city manager, Arlene Salazar, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please rise.
Father, as we gather here today, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in placing your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Ms. Salazar, are there any corrections to the agenda?
No, Mayor, there are not.
Moving on to the ceremonial items and presentation sections of our business this evening. First, I'd like to recognize National PTSD Awareness Month. June is National PTSD Awareness Month, represented by green ribbons. In the United States, approximately 8 million adults have PTSD, along with 5.5 million children and thousands of military veterans whose memories of their wartime experiences still affect their everyday lives. PTSD is treatable, but if not given the proper type of care, it can be fatal or may lead to preventable suicides. Raising awareness about the signs, symptoms, and conditions of PTSD and how to access treatment is vital to creating positive outcomes. With effective treatments and intervention, trauma survivors can feel safe in the world and live happy and productive lives. If you or anyone you know may be suffering from PTSD, there's help and resources available at ptsd.va.gov. No one should ever be ashamed to ask for or to seek help if they're being impacted by PTSD, and be aware and sensitive to the issue. All of us can help those who suffer from it. As we look ahead to July, I'd also like to ensure that we take a moment here in the remaining days of June to ensure that we recognize Gun Violence Awareness Day. Selected to take place annually on June 2nd, Gun Violence Awareness Day became a national event following the tragic death of Hadia Pendleton, a Chicago teenager who was shot and killed on a playground in January 2013. At the time, Pendleton was just 15 years old and just days before had performed at a parade for President Barack Obama's second inauguration. 2 years later, the first National Gun Violence Awareness Day took place on June 2nd, 2015, which would have been Pendleton's 18th birthday. Pendleton's loss is a somber reminder that more than 43,000 Americans are killed with guns and approximately 76,000 more are shot and wounded every year. Gun violence is also now the leading cause of death for children and teens in the U.S. Firearms accounted for nearly 19% of childhood deaths ages 1 through 18 in 2021, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Wonder database. Nearly 3,600 children died in gun-related incidents that year. That's about 5 children lost for every 100,000 children in the United States. Gun violence is not inevitable. It is preventable, and in our region, we recognize that gun violence is a public health emergency. We each have a role in ending it. Let's all do our part to raise awareness of gun violence, honor those who we have lost and those who have suffered from it, but also do all that we can to end it. For more information on gun violence and how you can help prevent it and Gun Violence Awareness Day, please visit weareorange.org. And just very quickly scanning the audience, do we have, is Cheryl here by chance or any representatives for National Scleroderma Month? If we can just take a quick pause while we gather them for this next portion of the meeting. Ms. Bishop? Hi. We are about to recognize National Scleroderma Awareness Month. Are you ready? Excellent. If my colleagues will please join me in front of the lectern. National Scleroderma Awareness Month first came to the Montebello City Council's attention by Cheryl Bishop, who has been a very vocal, passionate, and lovely advocate, sharing her experience with the disease, the experience of others, and bringing the city of Montebello around to understand more about our neighbors, and something that really doesn't affect very much of the population, but that has a really big effect on those who suffer from it in their daily lives. National Scleroderma Awareness Month is observed in June every year. Scleroderma is a chronic autoimmune connective tissue disease in which the body produces excessive collagen. This causes hardening and thickening of the skin and internal organs. Scleroderma borrows from the Greek words scleros and derma, which mean hard skin. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, noted people affected by this condition as far back as 400 BC. It wasn't until the 1700s that doctors began seriously examining this condition. And even while scleroderma has been around a long time, it has no known cause or cure, and diagnosing it is difficult because its symptoms are similar to other diseases. Since 1998, National Scleroderma Foundation has dedicated itself to educating the public and spreading awareness of this rare autoimmune disease. National Scleroderma Awareness Month seeks to spark conversations and encourages advocacy, fundraising, research, support groups, and public awareness programs for this cause. And I'd like to invite you, Cheryl, to make a few comments on what it means to you and anything else you'd like to share.
Thank you so much for this honor. It's so huge, you don't even know. This chance to create awareness for this incurable disease is like such a big step. So thank you. When you see people who have it, you don't know because it is invisible. Not everybody has signs on the outside, but it does. Your connective tissue gets harder, so it affects your lungs, your heart, your kidneys, your digestive tract, your liver, and your circulatory system. You get really bad sores on your hands, like diabetes, and often at times people do have double lung transplants and stem cell transplants, but there is no cure and only one FDA-approved drug so far. So thank you, Montebello.
Do you have the Sharpie pen by chance?
Yes, great.
So there you go.
Thank
Very
you.
much, sure.
Thank
I think that's it. Yeah. Moving to the next part of this evening's agenda, we have the Ashia Park expansion presentation. Ms. Salazar?
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to introduce our Director of Parks and Recreation, David Sosnowski, who will be doing the presentation this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. Quick presentation today. It's kind of in conjunction with the item later on consent agenda, item 23. So this presentation just gives City Council and the public kind of a better overview and a little bit more detail to that item that's up for consideration later. So a little bit of background about what we're talking about today with the proposed Ashia Park expansion and Edison Trails project. There we go. So back in July of 2021, City Council approved the city's Park Master Plan. Part of that plan, the Park Master Plan identified a need for trail systems within the city and recommended creating a more walkable and bikeable city, creating pathways to connect different parts of the city. And we did that by looking at a level of service analysis and basically seeing what the benchmarks are for state, county, and local benchmarks per 1,000 residents and seeing deficiencies or needs for trails and more park space. The Park Master Plan further highlighted the Edison property on the west side of town that we're talking about today as an opportunity area for future development as a linear corridor and park expansion at Ashia Park. In July of 2022, just off of the approved master plan, we wanted to look at some of these areas more specifically and saw this as a potential area to study. So last year, we commissioned a general overview study by KTUNA, the folks that did the Park Master Plan, looking at the property, and they looked at basically a SWOT analysis, the challenges, opportunities, and some projected costs to develop this. Just last month, City Council authorized staff to kind of pursue next steps here and work with Southern California Edison to kind of lay out a game plan for how this might work. So the potential Ashia Park expansion / trails project is what we're discussing. All right, a little bit of project info. So Ashia Park expansion trail project will be approximately 10-acre linear corridor that stretches a total of about 1.1 miles on the west side of town. The project area is owned by Southern California Edison and encompasses 12 separate parcels. The Montebello Edison Trails Study, which is attached to item 23 and for the public on the agenda, explores the possibility of developing that corridor into a usable trail and some general park amenities. The project would create walkable, bikeable trails, again, about 1.1 miles, with minor recreational amenities along the corridor with the majority of the parcels, and expand or connect to the current Ashia Park in the largest parcel just off of Garfield. And a little bit more specifics about the location. Again, we referenced on the west side of town, so specifically, the project site stretches from North Garfield Avenue, right by Ashia Park, and runs parallel to Findlay Avenue and ends up at Via Campo near the golf course. The trail potentially provides or could provide a safe connection to Ashia Park, Eastmont Intermediate, Cantwell Sacred Heart of Mary High School, and the golf course, as well as to the various communities within the vicinity of the trail, and kind of helps us with our goals of making our park system more walkable within, as you see the map there, a 5-minute walk shed, and the golf course as well. The project additionally includes expansion of the southern end of Ashia Park, again, just off of Garfield, which will allow for more traditional park amenities as approved and as allowed by Edison. So just a couple of renderings. And again, this is in item 23 in the agenda packet, shows some more specifics about how that type of project could look. And you see one of the parcels there in between Via Campo. And lastly, project costs, again, looking at the entire stretcher, you'll see some large numbers, but again, we're just looking at preliminary overview. And project costs are gonna be specifically dependent upon the type of materials used. So you'll see there was different options in that study that were highlighted, the different ways you can save costs or do different types of costs in doing the trail only or the park sections or park amenities only or a total of all. So the study provided low-end and high-end cost alternatives for trail construction, I must say, too, all contingent on Edison, right? So they have different, we're very familiar with the restrictions that Edison has with their lease agreements. Ashia Park is one that's been for 60 years now. So there's different height restrictions. You can't put poles over 15 feet. Trees have to be a certain distance from towers. Fencing has to be of a certain type of fencing and gauge and grade and height. So those things are all that come into consideration here. And the biggest cost factor there was considering the residents, potentially if this ever goes forward, is looking at walls along the entire corridor, and that'd be the biggest cost, as you could see on one of the line items there. Total estimated cost could be, again, on the low end, 5.3 to 9.2 million for the entire stretch of all 12 parcels. And a lower cost alternative, if this is too much, we don't have the funding for it, or different funding is not available, just making it an accessible walkway. So limited planning and site work, limited benches, limited lights, but concentrating more on the walking bike path, maybe with like a decomposed granite type of material. So again, just to summarize a little bit about what the staff is proposing in item 23 is to apply for a license agreement It's a no commitment. Basically, we're just saying we're interested in these 12 parcels. Edison will consider that. And as you can see there, they could take 4 to 8 months to review. They have several departments, real estate, maintenance, projects, development, that have to review this for future use. So they'll look at, in the next 5 to 10 years before we commit to the city, making this a secondary use, as they call it. We want to see if there's any other projected uses or even storage and staging, that they're using one of the parcels right now for staging for construction. So they'll look at that and see what they could commit to the city or not commit to the city. And then depending on that, if it's not all 12 parcels, maybe there's a section that we could look at as a possibility to pursue. If a license agreement is approved to be applied for tonight and then again approved by Edison within the 4 to 8 month window, staff will further development the trail study. Again, what we've done and attached to item 23 is really a general overview. We'll conduct thorough and community engagement. Again, we're going in between 2 major streets there, and a lot of residents will be directly connected and affected by this. So community engagement outreach efforts will be a big part of final design, and then develop a finalized design and construction plan with more accurate cost estimates for the current time. So with that, if there's any questions, I could take them at this time, but we wanted to just provide Mayor and Council a real general overview about what you're looking at in item 23 tonight. Thank you for the presentation, Director Cisnowski. Councilmember Jimenez, any questions or comments?
Thank you, David. This is a great presentation, and thank you for doing this so quickly. I do have a couple of questions. Just to be clear, this was already included in the master plan, correct?
That's correct, Councilmember.
Okay, so this 5 point whatever million, is that an additional cost to that plan, or is it an additional cost to the city? Where is this money coming from?
Yes, if I could expand on that a little bit. So this area was looked at as a potential future site, right, for trails and park space, 10 linear acres, right? So any development on this would be cities trying to find a funding source, either grants. Problem with grants for this type of thing, they want to have a deed restriction. We don't own the deed, so we won't get that. And they want like either a 30-year or a lifetime commitment. We won't be able to speak for Edison and say, for the next 30 years, guarantee this is going to be park space. Otherwise, the city would have to pay the money back potentially if it's a state fund or a county-funded grant. So potentially general fund or other funding sources that we could come up with.
So as it stands, we don't have like the money for this right now?
That's correct.
Okay. As far as Edison, with the agreement with them, if we enter into an agreement, would that be a city manager question, or how long would these agreements, or do we have the ability to ask for the term of the agreement as far as the time? How many years?
David can ask.
Yeah, so Councilmember, good question. So with Edison property, they won't commit to more than 5 years at a time. Even with the Shia Park, it's been a park for 60 years. I don't think they plan on taking it away and making it back to just a gated off Edison power line system. But every 5 years, we bring back to council to renew that license agreement.
These renditions, these images, although I know that they're just, whatever you guys came up with, I could imagine this, and it looks really beautiful. Our runners actually ran from Ashia Park last night. However, when thinking about the funding, that would be an additional cost to the city, I have to advocate for the South Side. We have 2 parks. I live down the street from one of them, but the most neglected one is Holyfield. And when we talk about equity and social equity, this is a perfect example. We have had a lot of residents over the years bring forward concerns about Reggie Park, yes, but particularly Holyfield. Now, this is something that, when you talk about equity, this is something that, again, this would be beautiful. I'd want to see it in every district tomorrow. However, it just seems that right now, I don't understand why we're considering this accruing this cost that we don't have. And perhaps somewhere down the line, we could, I know this is just a presentation and we're going to look into the item much later, but these are just concerns, just so that the community understands that we're now looking to spend money that we don't have on something that only a specific district is asking for. And while everyone across the city gets to benefit, no one is asked to stay away from any other district. we do have this dire need in the south side, particularly at one of our parks. This is a beautiful presentation, David. I know you said it was brief, and it is. Thank you so much for that, but thank you for your work. And again, these are just my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Melendez?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I mean, I think providing trails and green space, I think it's good for the community overall. The only concern and kind of, or not a concern, but just something that maybe we should also think about is, I know there's been a couple of cities and around us too that have tried getting a corridor for the Edison property. And I just don't know how easy that is, because I think it could be challenging based on the feedback that they gave me. So just as an example, and it's, we can definitely contact them and see if we can do like a joint letter. Maybe it could be some state policy that can, that we can work towards. But the city of Paramount, for the longest, has been trying to get properties like this from Edison to create the same type of vision. But it's been a challenge getting some of that land from Edison. So I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. Just I know that it can be somewhat difficult and challenging getting that property. So if we are seeking, some type of agreement with Edison, or we can get some other commitment, that's awesome. But I do know that it might take us regionally as a coalition for us to get together with other council members, other cities, to see if we can lobby maybe some of our state representatives, and maybe they can come in and help us out. But I do know it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, just because there are other cities that have similar visions, but it's just extremely difficult to get that land.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Thank you for this initiative, Mr. Sosnowski. And I think the investment in our parks is definitely a priority for our community. It's serving our community and working with partners such as Edison to see what we can do to improve our amenities, I think is a great thing. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. And I do really want to thank staff for their work in being visionaries. I think this is where we begin to really see the transformation of our communities. If we are not aggressive about protecting our open space, if we are not aggressive about going after funding and grants and working with our representatives and working with our interagency and utility companies, then we will continue to have a Montebello that looks ugly. We will continue to have a Montebello that doesn't prioritize social spaces for our community to be able to have recreational activities, to be able to live somewhere that looks nice, where we don't have a lot of crime. Speaking as a representative of District 2, we only have Ashia Park, and Ashia Park is currently riddled with a lot of issues with crime, a lot of issues of just loitering, and we have a lot of community members who have been very outspoken about the need to protect the spaces that we have in our city. And the Edison right-of-way trails are currently being underutilized. They're fenced off. They're right next to properties all along the roads, and they're not being maintained by Edison. That space is literally just sitting there with dry dirt and dry grass, and potentially being an issue in regards to fire hazard when it comes to 4th of July coming. And so I think it's important for the city to be able to take ownership of these types of projects and being able to realize the needs of our community. And it doesn't matter, whether it's an area that belongs to District 2 or an area that belongs to District 4. It's about enhancing the vision of Montebello as a whole. Me and my colleagues all have advocated for Grant Ray Park, having a community garden there. And that's something that I hope we realize soon. I know staff has been working hard on launching that and, making sure that we actually put to use our pool at Chet Hollyfield. And hopefully, I believe staff is working on having that pool open on certain days to ensure that our residents in South Montebello have access to that pool. And so this is the very, very initial stages of envisioning such an incredible project for community. I mean, to have a corridor of walking trails and biking trails and open space where our residents will be able to exercise, where they will be able to spend time and address their mental health issues. We don't have open space in Montebello. Now, today's presentation isn't a commitment to $5 million or $9 million. It's a commitment to begin a process of identifying funding. There's a lot of funding right now for open spaces and working with our representatives, such as our assembly members and our state representatives to seek funding for open spaces to be able to fund a park expansion and project like this. And I had the opportunity to work with one of our Edison representatives who actually was very excited about having this here in the city of Montebello. They identified a project, J Imperial Park, which I believe is in the city of San Gabriel, which was an underutilized right-of-way space that was fenced off. The city worked in collaboration with Edison, and I believe they just opened it about a year ago. If you drive by, it's beautiful. It's literally an open space with walking trails, with biking trails, and it really makes the community look cohesive and beautiful. And so, today is a conversation and a discussion about a vision and the vision that council wants to set for our community. It's about our priorities and ensuring that we create spaces for our community, that we identify the funding, that we commit to working with our interagencies and our representatives to realize this vision. And this might, even if it's something as the beginning stages of what it is now, it might not even be realized within my time on council, but the fact that we sowed those seeds for the future of our community, I believe that's the legacy that we can leave behind. It's a legacy of a commitment from council to ensuring that we have open space and that we have a community that values these types of areas for our residents. And so that concludes my comments. Well, actually, I also would like to say that seeing just how expansive this project is, it doesn't mean that we can't start in phases. I know that's an opportunity as well in regards to ensuring that if we don't have the funding for the complete project, that's fine. But starting in phases and taking parcel by parcel as we realize the funding, I think is going to be an incredible start to something that we can hopefully see in our community in the long run. So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Director Sosnowski, I'd like to start off with just a couple questions. So first of all, thank you very much for the presentation and kind of giving the outline of what this new park space would look like. One of the things that I've tried to practice as we look at exciting new opportunities is, aside from those initial costs, what does it take over the life of these projects to run them, to maintain them, to make sure that they stay as wonderful as they first started? So the first question that I would like to ask is if you have any sense of the extra manpower and maintenance that this would require, and if there is any kind of dollar figure that you would imagine that this extra park space would need.
Thank you for the question, Mayor. So there's no specific numbers fleshed out yet. Again, as we discussed, it's a real preliminary. We do have different benchmarks that the park master plan also gave us for like a per acre cost. Those are probably 3 years old, so I wouldn't reference those at this point with current labor costs. So I wouldn't feel comfortable saying we have something on that now. It obviously would be an additional cost for maintenance, though.
Would your department be able to take a look into that and just kind of, in a very general sense, determine, it takes so many people per acre to cut grass or to maintain sidewalks, maintain trees. I see that you've listed out 3 different kind of tranches of amenities here and what those would require, just general estimates so that we understand what the long-term implications are.
Yeah, we could work with the city manager and also Public Works because they oversee a lot of the maintenance efforts and kind of see what contractual labor costs are, because that's probably what I would recommend, using it under a maintenance contractor.
Absolutely, thank you. I was also curious as to what kind of security has been contemplated, again, understanding that this is a very preliminary stage. You, out of all people, have extensive knowledge of the kind of issues that we face at our parks, whether it be lighting, whether it be prohibited activities that take place at these public spaces where we have families and children. And these preliminary concepts are things like cameras or lighting or any kind of security measures contemplated and included in the costs?
Yes, Mayor, within the context of the study attached to item 23, they reference some costs for lighting specifically within the Edison guidelines, 15-foot high poles. It may have to be solar, right? We can't run electrical to them, as well as cameras. And I'm obviously the parks person, so I'm advocating for this as a potential future project, but also identifies those challenges. There's some of those parcels that are very long, like 150 feet or so. There might not be clear line of sight. So that's all identified in that study as well, what the potential safety measures should be. It might, cart before the horse, but if it does open, you'd have to open and close at certain hours to keep folks safe, maybe more patrols, and that's a conversation with our law enforcement.
Absolutely, thank you very much. And just to double check my numbers, adding 10 acres is like adding another Chet Hollyfield Park, correct? It's around, Chet Hollyfield, I believe, is about like 11, a little bit more, but that's kind of like the landmass that we're talking about.
More or less, yeah, obviously stretched out over 1.1 linear miles.
Sure, thank you. That is all for my questions. I do have a couple comments. So when it comes to funding, and I appreciate my colleagues' concerns around the budget that we have and the money that we have, when it comes to projects like these and funding them, they rely on a variety of funding sources. And a lot of times you can't get funding unless you have a plan. So to try and, hope that we're able to amass millions of dollars in advance of executing on any kind of designs is just not typical practice. When we're applying for county and state and nonprofit grants, you have to say, these are the steps that we've taken, these are the feasibility studies that we've done, these are the things that we would like to pursue. And so this is actually the most prudent step to take at this point in trying to achieve this vision. Also, I appreciate the Mayor Pro Tem's remarks that these projects take a long time, that actions like these sow the seeds for people that are going to benefit way down the line. These projects definitely don't happen overnight, and so taking these steps little by little, meeting by meeting, we'll be able to eventually realize, this wonderful trail space for the entire city. And I want to, as much as districting has changed the way that we elect our representatives, I do want to continue to keep the city in mind the way that I started when I first came into office, is that these amenities really are meant for the whole city. We talk about, how close they are in terms of walking or how close they are in terms of driving. But Montebello as a whole is a park-poor city, as shown by our park master plan. And adding amenities like these are opportunities for everyone, including our neighbors in Monterey Park, including our neighbors in Commerce, to come up and enjoy what I think is going to be a very unique amenity one day down the road in the city of Montebello. I would also like to extend an invitation to any of my colleagues to work on the Rio Hondo Channel spreading grounds. So a couple years ago, particularly listening to the residents in the South and this idea that council wasn't paying attention, I took a lot of time to walk the Rio Hondo spreading grounds, to take my scooter and ride along it, to examine the issues with the unhoused and with drug use, to examine the issues of access. And I think much like this expansion of Ashia Park, there are certain opportunities in our community for expanding open spaces. They're very few and far between being a built-out city like we are here in Montebello and in general the Los Angeles region. And so these spaces like the Rio Hondo Channel spreading grounds are these unique opportunities to do things like baseball and soccer fields, these light uses that enhance the experience and quality of life for our residents while having a minimal impact on the operations of our partners like Edison or like the county rivers and wildlife. So this is an active, open participation. Councilmember Melendez, I remember that you brought forward a council oral saying that we should engage with our neighbors along the Emerald Necklace to imagine how we can beautify it and use it. Councilmember Jimenez, I understand your concern about equity and park space, and there are dozens and dozens of acres available right next to your district that I would be happy to talk to you with and advocate, putting attention and money down there. With those comments being said, Director Sosnowski, just thank you one more time for marching down this path and for planning for the future of recreation in Montebello. Next, Ms. Salazar, I believe we have a fire recognition for a serious incident report of April 13th.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'd like to call up Chief Fernando Pelaez. Do you want the council to come up? You want the council to come up? Yeah. It'd be nice if you come down at this time. Thank you.
All right, green light. I'm going to call up the crew of Engine 56 and the fire guys that are here, our fire marshal. Hi, Mayor. I'm good, thank you. All right, these are our heroes here. So we had a significant incident about a month and a half ago down in the south part of town. And anytime we have apartment fires, the property loss is always very concerning to me. They're very challenging areas to fight fires. The water supply is the hydrants to proximity of the location of the fire sometimes is a challenge. And that day, Captain Beveridge was pulling out of the station, and he noticed that there was fire coming out of an apartment building. And he immediately swung into action. They did a transitional fire attack. They didn't wait for anybody. They immediately went in because, usually those situations, there's high potential for property loss, but also for lives. So immediately deployed their lines, did the transitional attack, and attacked the fire very aggressively with the crew he had, and extinguished that fire, saving that apartment owner complex millions and millions of dollars. I thought that was amazing what they did. But then you follow it up with the back end of the team, which is our arson investigators, our fire marshal. They came in immediately and started investigating the fire, and immediately determined that it was arson of nature. And within a week, they were able to close the case. I thought that was amazing work. It just shows that our guys are diligent, are there, and they take risks for us every day. And I'm very proud of them, and I'm honored that they're here and here.
Gentlemen, just on behalf of the residents and my colleagues, just want to give our sincere thanks for the way that you take care of our community. This is a major incident, and maybe that one that you can wear really proudly on your chest, but day by day, with every action that you take, just by showing up to work, getting your training done, making sure that you're qualified and ready to go out, and that our machines are ready to go, is that work that's unseen, always appreciated, and as much as we can, we just want to recognize that. So thank you so much for taking care of our community.
Do you want a name?
Yeah, sure. Captain Beveridge. They're all here. Hermes is in here, so we'll put this one out to the side. Yeah. Let's see. Gary Robinson, Captain Robinson. Our fire marshal, Daniel Cifuentes. Engineer Blake, where are you, Silka? I think that's all I have right now, right? Those were the ones that were on duty that day. And of course, it takes a team. The other stations that responded, the battalion chief that took command of the fire. So let's not forget about them either. It's just, to me, it was just that they jumped into action. They didn't wait. and they took those risks. I think that's what they get paid to do, and we get paid to do, but we don't do it for that. We do it for you guys. You're the reason why we're here. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Steve. Last but certainly not least, in our presentation section is the MCAP quarterly update. Ms. Salazar?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'd like to invite Angelica Palmeros from the MCAP team to provide the quarterly report. Thank you. Oh, the chief's going to speak tonight.
We're going to actually change it up a little bit today, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening. So I'm going to ask actually the boots on the grounds to come up and do the quarterly presentation. That'll be Jonathan and Sandra. So
welcome, Jonathan and Sandra.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm short. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Let me go to the next slide. So we're here to present the MCAP quarterly report. And this is our first time here. So we are the Fire Department's Montebello Assistance Program, formerly known as MCAP in the community. This one here. All right. So in this slide, I wanted to show, before I show you the quarterly report, is how do we get these, how do we come up with these numbers? You know, where are these, the demographics are coming from, right? And so when it would help if I wear my glasses. I always do that. Is the engagement part. How do we get called? Who calls us? And so one of the, it's the Verdugo, the 911 system, and also the firefighters. We also get direct referrals from the community members, city staff, residents, city members, and city council, and also business and others. And also when we're in the field, when we do our street outreach, or we're in the riverbed. So on this slide, it just shows, it kind of looks like a paper cut, but we really don't do any paper cuts here because every time we meet with people, it's different. It's always a unique time. We always take it as wherever the client is at, and that's what we try to do. So sometimes it doesn't go in this order, but we always do a biopsychosocial. We always work with, we find out to see if they have, be part of their continuum of care, and we try to do like a holistic approach also. So we try to go with, there's any medical, any mental health, any substance use, any way we can help them in that order, and that's a lot of case management. So that's a lot of making phone calls. If they're ready for substance abuse, we call and try to see if we can get them into treatment or detox. And so we do a lot of transportation too. And if they're interested in housing, such as the tiny homes or other housing programs, we get them what we call document ready, making sure that they have their ID, Social Security card, Social Security income, if they have it, or any kind of income. And because it can be, there's a lot of barriers in this. So even as simple as getting an ID, it can be difficult for them. So we're kind of like the ones that break down the barriers for them. And as we do that, if they're interested, we go on to the biopsychosocial. If they're not interested, we ask them, is it okay we come back again and meet with you? And if they say yes, we give them a business card, we tell them we can also call us. But sometimes it takes about 15 encounters before they kind of agree or they decide to um, provide services for them. There's other things that we also do, like the elder assistance, families, and youth. There's a lot of referrals that go with that, and we make the phone calls for them. And on the elderly assistance, sometimes the firefighters will ask us to go to do wellness checks, and that's another things that we provide. So now I'll go into the quarterly report. So in this one, it's the age group, the gender, ethnicity. We also, and this is from April of 2023 until, I think we stopped doing June 20th of 2023. So we had like 99 outreach events. We had 130 case management, and we had like 42 new clients during that quarter. In the case management, I broke it down a little bit more, and it will show like we had transportation was like 23. The other big one is, I put down is, it is communications. On the other reports, I would put other, but I thought I'd break it down a little bit more in the communications, just so that you know there's that, it's a lot of, it's phone calls, talking to other, it can be talking to hospitals, talking to their doctors, talking to other providers, other agencies, and so all of that is part of their case management services. On my next slide, I'll have Jonathan. Do you want me to go ahead?
Good afternoon. So on this slide, we wanted to provide an update on throughout our fiscal years. As you can see, we have progressively had an increase of clients that we have rolled from fiscal year 1, 2, and 3. As you can see, our highest numbers are in fiscal 3 currently, and that goes in count of just our program getting well-known throughout the city, and not just our communities, but other communities along the Montebello boundaries. As you can see, most of our clientele is in the city boundaries of Montebello. As you can see, our transportation, that is our main barrier regarding services in the city. We have to typically do transportation services and case management services outside the city, which can take up some of our time being in the city. So we definitely try to be as efficient as possible as we can, so we could get back in the city and continue assisting the people in the community here. On this next slide, we provide a timeline of a different service that we provide within our suppression and prevention side of the fire department. We provided assistance on June 12 on an apartment fire that impacted 14 individuals that had 6 children and 8 adults, and we were able to respond and assist these individuals in immediate emergency services because they were homeless due to this fire. In our quarter findings report, we have found out that there has been people experiencing more and more chronic and ongoing mental health needs. There has been an increase of substance use services and treatment, an increase of fire displacements, and we have continued developing partnerships and collaborations, not just within the city, but outside the city as well. We have had an uptick of transportation and also job training. More and more of our participants are seeking job training assistance so they could go back into the workforce and have a sustainable housing. And we have also had an increase in call volume. So on this next slide, we want to begin on our Operation Stay Safe, that has been open since July 20th of 2022. We still currently have 30 tiny home units, and MCAP is still currently the gatekeepers for providing intake referrals. So we are still currently providing direct services from the streets to temporary housing and permanent housing. So in this quarter, we were able to assist and house 11 clients from tiny homes. We were able to bring in 7 clients, which has unaccompanied 20 units at tiny homes, and we have had 3 terminations at the site. On this slide here, we just wanted to notify the public and the community that there is going to be a new referral process that the community is going to be able to access directly to us. We will be introducing a QR code that would directly have a form for the community, city staff, even other providers outside the city, so they could recommend individuals or people experiencing homelessness directly to us. So that would be on the Montebello Fire Department MCAP page, and it will be accessible soon. And I am now opening up to any questions.
Before we get into questions, I just wanted to invite, if anybody's ever interested in a ride-along, just let us know. We'll be more than happy to provide.
Thank you, Sandra and Jonathan, for the presentation. You did fantastic for your first time up here at the lectern, and thank you for the update. For the sake of time in this meeting, I would ask that my colleagues, if you guys have any questions or comments, if we can send those over to you. I have a few that I took note of during your presentation here that I'll send to Ms. Salazar. The one thing that I'll just note very quickly is this QR code and this website is very exciting to be able, like, I was able to take a look very quickly, geolocated, the name of the individual, the date, and just all kinds of details to help you perform your job. So thank you for arranging that. I think the community is going to be very excited to use that new tool. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd also, just to further on Sandra and Jonathan, we really appreciate them coming. They're very shy, but they are definitely the boots on the ground, and they have a lot of trust out there. So we appreciate you taking the time to acknowledge them tonight.
Mr. City Attorney, if you will please read the statement of public comments on non-agenda items.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. At this time, the public may submit public speaker cards to the city clerk staff for both agenda and non-agenda items prior to the beginning of this statement. Public hearing items do not require a speaker card. The city council will address non-agenda items during this section, and speakers will be called in the order received.
Mr. City Clerk?
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't.
Oh, I apologize.
Almost. Had to flip the page. Those persons not accommodated during this 30-minute period will have an opportunity to speak under public comments continued after all scheduled matters have been considered. Public hearing, regular business, and/or consent calendar items will be addressed at that time that the matter of business is heard in the order received. Please be aware that the maximum time allotted for members of the public to speak shall not exceed 3 minutes per speaker. State law prohibits the city council from taking action or entertaining extended discussion on a topic not listed on the agenda. Please show courtesy to others and direct all of your comments to the mayor and city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Mr. City Clerk?
Yes, first speaker is Will Severa, followed by Alexandra Bliceno.
And Mr. Clerk, how many speakers do we have this evening for public comment?
We have a total of 14 speaker cards.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. Will Severa. Tonight, I want to be addressing the pressing concerns of our community with regards and actions of the Councilwoman Angie Jimenez. I witnessed Councilwoman Jimenez's passionate and arguably inappropriate outbursts during the last council meeting. And while I appreciate her passion, I find it hypocritical that not once did she ever have this type of passion to shed light on the issues faced in District 5. I believe roughly, I quote, that, David, if you're defunding these positions, the employees are depending on their paychecks. But yet not once did she speak about the employees of the 52 transit employees that were furloughed, nor did she speak up about the dedicated police employees, including Officer Al Martinez, Officer Sergio Andrade, Officer Manny Carrera, Officer Jennifer Carrera, Officer Katie Ferrari, Officer Maria Chavez, and Officer Navarro has been forced into retirement, terminated due to false complaints and fear. Some have even been withheld for their medical approvals to starve them out. Several have left to other agencies due to the toxic environment created by Mr. Bobadilla and his staff. The officers I mentioned equal over 175 years of combined experience and expertise that we have lost, and it'll take decades to replace. Our fire department is also experiencing a significant exodus, with 10 firefighters already gone and 5 more expected to follow, not to mention Captain Vernon Creswell, who has two state lawsuits and a federal lawsuit. This raises concerns about public safety. These departures emphasize the urgent need to address and challenges and safeguard the well-being of our community. Unfortunately, dissenting opinions about Bobadilla, Razo, or Salazar are often met with pushback, administrative leave, or accusations of misconduct. As an at-will state, the City Council holds the power to control the purse strings under California Government Code. Instead of prioritizing safety, we have witnessed the hiring of staff that surround the city manager while the public safety numbers continue to dwindle. Even concerns about attempting to break-ins have been overlooked, with resources allocated towards an assistant police chief rather than patrolling the streets. I want to highlight the issue of retaliation raised by Michael Chi. It's ironic that he attacked me using public comment time on this podium about my personal life that has nothing to do with city business. I'm a private resident, and Chi used his privileged information obtained on the job while he was being paid. To make matters worse, roughly 2 weeks later, he was rewarded by the administration with a pay raise and an unnecessary title that our city neither needed nor previously had. Their focus should be on city business and strengthening our public safety rather than adding more supervisors. Nonetheless, I'm thankful for the positive changes that occurred recently by Mayor Torres, Mayor Pro Tem Peralta, and Councilwoman Tamayo by allowing Bobadilla to resign from office. This is a step in the right direction. Additionally, we reverted back to being allowed to have a full 3 minutes to speak per agenda item. I also appreciate we are once again allowed to have a dissenting opinion to hold staff and council accountable. The reinstatement of the Civil Service Commission and the Traffic and Safety Commission brings me great satisfaction, as these institutions play a vital role in avoiding unnecessary lawsuits and ensuring that our community. Just one sentence. Thank you for your time, and let us unite and build a better future Montebello. Together, we can address these challenges and create a safer and more prosperous community. Thank you.
Next speaker is Alexandra Briceno, followed by Delia Sandoval.
Hi, good evening.
Ms. Briceño, and if we can please pause time real quick. If we can please keep any clapping, cheering at a minimum in the audience, please, and respect the proceedings. And if we can restart her 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Mayor Torres, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and staff. Needless to say, the previous council meeting spiraled out of control. It was quite the spectacle. Order was severely disrupted and city business came to a halt. The disruption could have been reduced had our Sergeant at Arms stepped in to take control. So where was our Sergeant at Arms? It's his or her duty to maintain order and decorum, enforce rules of conduct, address disruptions, and escort unruly individuals out if necessary. Our very own local law, Montebello Ordinance Number 2443, says that the chief of police or other designated police officer shall serve as sergeant at arms during council meetings. The sergeant at arms must carry all orders given by the mayor for the purpose of maintaining order and decorum at council meetings. It is the duty of the sergeant at arms to remove or place under arrest any person who violates the order and decorum of the meeting. Ordinance number 2443 further states that speakers shall not engage in conduct which interrupts the meeting or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Any person who becomes boisterous while addressing the council or who otherwise disrupts the orderly conduct of the council's business shall be subject to removal from the chambers. The ordinance also states that no members of the audience shall willfully interrupt the orderly conduct of the meeting. The mayor shall direct the removal of any individual whose interruption renders infeasible the orderly conduct of the meeting. During most of our council meetings, a group of inconsiderate attendees, carry on conversations amongst themselves often making it impossible to hear the discussion taking place on the dais. And I personally have never seen the Sergeant-at-Arms approach them to at least call their attention. To conclude, I would like to request the presence of our Sergeant-at-Arms, preferably somewhere here in the front where he can actively monitor activity and swiftly nip disruptions before they balloon out of control. Let's continue the work of restoring dignity to the dais. You made significant improvements when you stopped the public reading of emails from unverified sources. Thank you for the work that you do, and let me express my most sincere empathy for having to put up with such mean, venomous bullies that take advantage of the public comment period to publicly shame you and accuse you of lies. Please know that many good, decent folk in our city feel your pain, support you, and approve of the work that you're doing. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Delia Sandoval, followed by Bill Poliso.
Good evening. My name is Delia Sandoval. Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you for your service to Montebello. Recently, I had an opportunity to hear you, Ms. Tamayo, Ms. Peralta, and Mayor Torres speak. On behalf of many people that I know, we want you to know that you have a large community who is with you and sympathetic with you for frequently tolerating untruths, unkind comments, and even threats. I personally want to thank you for an outstanding job, all of you. It is refreshing to see your professionalism and demeanor in conducting business. In doing so, you are demonstrating to those who would one day want to be public servants how to be gracious and noble. On another note, there are many apartments and condos on Greenwood, Montebello, and Washington Boulevard in South Montebello, and there is not enough parking and too much traffic. Please consider the needs of the children and families who already live here before approving any more affordable houses in Montebello. The two parks in South Montebello are mainly used by adults who play baseball or soccer. Some families have said that they do not take their children there to those parks because of crime and drug activity. They have no yard and no playground at home. The families that already live here do not need more affordable housing units. They need a place where they may have a picnic, nice playgrounds, a family outing, walking trails. Thank you to all City Council for your effort in making it your priority to efficiently conduct business for Montebello. And I was very impressed with Ms. Peralta when she was talking about grants for the city, because I think it's something that you guys might consider approving, getting somebody to hire or somebody to get grants for the city for different projects. Please consider South Montebello because we have a lot of problems there and we do need open space. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Bill Poliso, followed by Rosa Tamayo.
Good evening. Bill Poliso, South Montebello. Before I go out, start my comments, I'd like to apologize to Director Sinoes for not being dressed the proper way by District 5 Council Member Ms. Jimenez. Ms. Jimenez, this is a business meeting. Please address people the right and proper way. Show some class, but you don't have any. First, let me talk in facts pertaining to the claims in Michael Chi's lawsuit. Back on October 2nd, 2011, when Michael Chi was an employee of El Monte, where he held a like position, there were some of the same kinds of claims levied at city officials. Michael Chi stated, and I quote, "The city has the right to investigate all these claims. These are claims, they are not facts." Michael Chi also pointed to politics, since it's an election year, Very interesting, isn't it? Remember those comments, Mr. Chi. Don't forget, House comments are on record. Now I'd like to speak about the 4th of July. I live in South Montebello. Last year, it was a total war zone down there with fireworks. I'm here to please ask for some policing in South Montebello this weekend, because it's only a matter of time till a very bad accident happens. With a death, with property being burned down, something. There's professional fireworks being set off on city streets. We all know how dangerous that is. So thank you very much, and the best of luck to all of you.
Next speaker is Rosa Tamayo, followed by Beatriz Vasquez.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Rosa Tamayo.
My name is Rosa Tamayo.
Mayor David Torres en concejales
Mayor David
Scarlett,
Torres and City Council members.
Scarlett Peralta,
Scarlett Peralta.
Salvador Meléndez,
Salvador
Delfina
Meléndez.
Tamayo y Angie Jiménez.
Angie Jiménez and the previous one. El que dijo antes de Angie.
Angie Jiménez.
Antes de Angie.
Georgina Tamayo.
Oh, Georgina Tamayo.
Pero yo soy Rosa Tamayo.
Sí, sí, sí.
Pero no somos
But I'm
parientes.
Rosa Tamayo. We're not related.
Quiero decirles,
I want to let you know,
Mayor Torres,
Mayor Torres,
Pro Team Scarlett Peralta
Pro Tem Scarlett
y Georgina
Peralta,
Tamayo,
Georgina Tamayo,
que están actuando de muy mala fe.
you are acting in bad faith.
El empleo de los trabajadores es lo que dignifica a las personas.
Someone's employment is what gives them dignity.
Tienen muy mala actitud de poder y la pueden perder.
You have a really bad attitude with your power and you could lose it.
Están quebrando los derechos civiles de los trabajadores.
You are breaking the civil rights of workers.
Y con eso tienen que tener mucho cuidado.
And you need to be very careful with that.
El trabajo de ustedes es vender servicios municipales.
Your job is to provide municipal services.
No se confundan.
Don't be confused. Don't get it wrong.
Y no tengan esa actitud
And
de que son súper.
And don't have an attitude that you're above that.
Tenemos muchos problemas en la ciudad.
We have many problems in the city.
Con el agua.
With water.
Con la electricidad.
Electricity.
Con las calles.
The streets.
Con el drenaje.
Drainage.
Todo es muy costoso.
All that costs a lot of money.
Y tenemos muy buen equipo de trabajadores en la ciudad.
And we have a great team of city workers.
Yo siempre he dicho que los parques son la presentación de la ciudad.
I've always said that parks are what really represent a city.
Están muy bien.
You know, they're doing well. They look good.
Ayer por la tarde me junté yo con un grupo.
Yesterday afternoon, I met up with a group.
Aquí en Acuña Park.
Here in Acuña Park.
Fuimos 35
It
personas.
was about 35 people.
Porque estamos en un plan de dignidad.
Because we are creating a plan for dignity.
Por la inmigración.
Dignity for immigration.
Y estuvo muy bien, a todas les gustó, vinieron personas de diferentes ciudades alrededor.
There were people from different cities came in for this meeting and they really liked.
Y dijeron que estaba muy bien, pero después vamos a ir a otros parques.
And they really liked the park and they said that it was really nice, but we're going to go to different parks.
Yo tengo raíces aquí.
I have roots here.
Me gusta mucho mi ciudad.
I really like my city.
Por razones obvias, yo me siento muy segura, siempre me he sentido muy segura en esta ciudad.
For obvious reasons, I've always felt very safe.
Y siempre he trabajado con la educación.
And I've always worked in education.
Y tenemos muy buen equipo en el departamento de fire.
And we have a great team in the fire department.
y tenemos muy buenos policías
We have great
que nos
police
sentimos
officers
seguros.
that help us feel safe.
Y pues ustedes tienen que tomar atención en sus obligaciones y responsabilidades,
And you have
pero
to
no se pongan los gorros
and you have to pay attention and of your responsibilities, but you can't sit on your laurels.
a veces yo siento como que tienes, Mayor David Torres, abogado casero, y
Mayor David Torres, Laura
también que
Casero.
quieres hacer decisiones como city manager.
I've noticed that you've tried to take on responsibilities that don't belong to you, like being the city manager.
Y eso no puede seguir siendo así. A mí no me gustan los recall, porque
¿Los qué?
los recall,
Oh, recall. Oh, thank you. She was saying that can't continue that way. You know, in general, she doesn't like recalls.
a mí más bien me gustan los class suit
Oh, she's more of a fan of class lawsuits
y los derechos civiles.
and civil rights.
Pero si lo tiene que hacer la gente, pues lo tiene que hacer.
But if
Pero
the people have to
tienen que
take the
tener mucho
action,
cuidado,
but if the people need to take action, they will, and you need to be very
porque
careful.
estamos en eso, no va a ningún lugar bueno.
Because the actions you're taking right now aren't going anywhere positive or good.
Sí, y nosotros tenemos que a tener los mejores beneficios en la ciudad.
And we need to have all the benefits
Pero
that
hay
the
que
city
cambiar
offers.
esa actitud negativa
but we
que
need to change
ustedes
that
tienen.
negative
Ya,
attitude that you
bájenle,
have.
por favor.
Take it down a little bit, please.
Ok, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Beatriz Vasquez, followed by Raul Hurtado.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. My name is Beatriz Vasquez. I'm Vice General Sheriff for Smart TD. I represent service workers, mechanics, storekeepers, and operators in the Transportation Department. I'm here to let you know that I'm here for inappropriate conduct. Smart TD was represented to the new management by our director in transportation as who's who on the zoo on June 5th, 2023. Who's who on the zoo means that we are animals. Smart TD represents employees. We work very hard. We're not considered animals. Now we know we are, since January, in February, we've been filing a lot of claims. We've been bypassed as union. We have filed many grievances. We have filed many violations, and up to today, nothing has been taken care of. We have limited access to restrooms in the Transportation Department. We have limited access to lunchroom in the Transportation Department. But now, as we were represented or introduced as animals, I guess now we know why. We are hardworking people. We transport every family's biggest treasure. We have your children, we take them to school, we take them to the doctor's appointments. We do a lot of hard work to have those buses going out. To be introduced as animals, I think it's inappropriate by our director. Now, I'm here to let you guys know, because I'm not sure if you guys are aware or not of this going on. I just wanted to make this aware because to me, it's very personal. As a Smart TD representative, as a Smart TD member, as a city employee for the city of Montebello, that's very, very, to me, that's very low. Now we know why we have limited access. Now we know why we are being bypassed. Now we know why we aren't put aside. So I'm just here to let you know and let you aware, if you guys tolerate this, if you guys allow this, and if you guys allow this, then let me know what case we belong on and what time we get fed. Thank you.
Next speaker is Raul Hurtado, followed by Jonathan Cretao.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to say I'm speaking on my own capacity so that you don't make a mistake and think that I'm an employee of the city, and then the mayor with his two puppets will put their heads together and try and defund me. Don't waste your time. I don't work for the city. I'm here to say that here again, the paper that I brought the last time, that Mr. Torres is going to defend against retaliation. I don't agree with everything that Rene Bobadilla did, but you retaliated against him and you managed to get him out of here. You got $2 million and he's laughing all the way to the bank. Now, Mr. Chi had the courage to speak right here where I'm at. You stopped him at the doorway and asked him a question. And I said, that's it for him. That is it for him. He's a target. And now you are retaliated again. You're going to defend against retaliation, and you are retaliating again by defunding his position because you couldn't fire him. That's retaliation. You and your puppets, the one that doesn't know much about anything and the one that talks and talks, and you, like you talk and talk. Your rebuttal to the press conference that Mr. Chi had was with your accomplishments. I haven't seen any accomplishments with you or your puppets. The only accomplishments that I've seen is chaos in the city. I think all the employees had better hurry up and put their lawsuits in because the money's going to run out with all the lawsuits that we're having. And I think in my last statement, I would like to say that the way everybody is getting millions of dollars, I would like to say to the city employees and the directors and everybody, who wants to be a millionaire?
Next speaker is Jonathan, last name C. I do not want to mispronounce your last name. And then that's going to be followed by Eddie Franco.
Good evening. Thank you for that. My name is Jonathan Svetko. I am one of the city's cannabis licensed operators here. I'm here this evening to respectfully ask for a dialogue with the city here. City staff as well as city police department have been wonderful in interacting with us. I think it is publicly state some of the challenges that we are seeing here within statewide that are sort of beginning to affect our businesses here within Montebello as well. For those that may not know, on a state level, we are facing numerous challenges. Within the industry itself right now, we are well over $500 million in AR debt amongst the industry itself. To the state, right now, it's estimated that they are over $250 million behind on taxes. In Q1 of this year, the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration ended up reporting that we have nearly 300 retail operators that were unable to pay their taxes. That equates more retail operators, licensed cannabis retail operators, than what are found in the city of Los Angeles, the city of Long Beach, and San Francisco combined. We are facing what we are quite frankly looking at right now as an existential event for the industry. And we need help from our local governments and from our government in general to be able to promote the viability of the legal licensed industry out there. Should that fail, that only promotes the illicit market further. We are coming here because we once again want to respectfully ask for your support and for your opportunity to sit down and speak with you to share some of our challenges so we can see what solutions together we can partner with so that we can begin to be even better citizens here within the city to support each other in the best ways we possibly can. Earlier last week, we had submitted a letter to the city here. I believe you all may have gotten that. Just in case you haven't had a chance to see it yet, I did bring it with me here tonight if it's possible to submit to you. And we'd like to invite, again, the conversation to have with you. You have my contact information there. Mayor Torres, you may remember you and I bumped into each other at the Sacramento airport recently. Again, that was just because we were just dealing with so much on the state level that we're trying to resolve there that is unfortunately affecting us here on a local level. So we want to invite the conversation to see how we can work together to find solutions on that. Thank you so much here for giving us the opportunity to speak with you on that. I'm here on behalf, just to kind of state down there as a Montebello Cannabinoid Business Association. We have had many months here where we've gathered together so we can speak on what solutions we could present forward with you here, and we are eager to share that with you. So thank you again for the opportunity here tonight. I know there's a lot on the city's agenda. We look to be supportive in what we can do together. We don't want to add more to what some of the challenges are we're trying to bring here, which is why we want to enter into this dialogue. Thank you again.
Thank you. And Ms. Guillen, if you can please receive the letters that the speakers brought.
Next speaker is Eddie Franco, followed by Ana B. Jurado.
Mr. Clerk, how many speakers do we have left?
After Mr. Franco, there's 5 speaker cards left.
Thank you.
Mr. Torres, Mayor Pro Tem Peralta, and Council. Just because of transparency, I just wanted to bring something to your attention. I believe, Mr. Torres, your Form 700 hasn't been set in. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I think there's a $10 fine per day, and I'd hate to see that fine go up. So if you haven't, I suggest you put it in sooner than later. Mayor Pro Tem Peralta, yours, I think you did put yours in, but I think you left out that you were working for LAEDC, and I believe they're a nonprofit that receives money from dues from cities, which would be a conflict of interest. So I suggest you put that in there if that is missing in there. Also, Mr. Torres, you had brought up something about people being jealous and angry and acting in extreme fashion and demeaning. I just want to bring it to your attention that there's some people on your side that are your followers that are acting in the same way. So if you bring it up to the attention of others, then I think you should bring it up to the attention of the people that are following you. Because I've heard and seen instances where people have been pretty aggressive and not acting in the right way. So I just think fair is fair. You should bring it up all the way across for everybody. Right? Thank you.
Next speaker is Ana B. Jurado, followed by Maria Knox.
Good evening, Mayor Torres and council members. Speaking right now with Eddie Franco said, I'm gonna go on that because Saturday when I was here, I prayed my rosary. I think Georgina sent up Alexandra Briseños, and I want it on record. And she came up to me, said I was disgusting, evil. She said a whole bunch of stuff. That's the 3rd time she's accosted me in a way. So I want it on record. Please don't send anybody to me, okay? I am covered by the ADA, American Disabled Act, okay? I have a disability. I'm a senior citizen. I'm over 70, so please leave me alone, okay? That's one thing. I had to say that. Anyway, the employees here that have filed, I figure that recall. You know, I'm surprised because these employees are union members and they filed claims against the city accusing Mr. Torres of creating ongoing toxic, hostile work environment and abuse of powers, not to mention the cost it's going to cost us with attorney fees. Oh, and one thing, Mr. Torres, you said if you get an attorney or everybody put together to get an attorney for you and all this and that, if you win and it's proven that you're right and we have to pay everybody through would you consider stepping down? Because you're going to cost us all that money. Secondly here, I've researched the dossiers of directors and employees of the city of Montebello. I was very impressed by their educational background, their years of experience in their fields and duties. These directors and employees are the backbone of making you look like you're doing a good job. The accolades should be directed to the director and employees for helping you make the right decisions. Also, I'm very surprised that Mr. Glassman and our treasurer, David Matanga, have not guided the council because the city treasurer could do that, okay? Now, I've known David for, well, almost 50 years. And when I read his dossier, you know, he's worked with the union. He was a union activist. He worked with SCIU, the labor. I mean, why couldn't they tell Mr. Glassman and tell you that you can't do what you're doing to employees, retaliating? You would have saved us a lot of money, but they didn't do that. So here they are. You know, Mr. Matanga was president, vice president, steward, he's all this, and yet he stands by you while you're harassing employees. Doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, you know, I looked up what a city treasurer does. He's an advocate for the best interests of the residents and will challenge and work with the city council to find a budget and take into account current and project expenses and revenues. Again, okay? And it says here, his experience has given him the knowledge and appreciation for the need to hold government officials accountable for their actions. That hasn't been done. Just one more little quick thing. When I was
Ms.
out,
Hurtado, your time has expired. Thank you very much.
I know, but you
I'm
gave
sorry,
a couple of other people.
I'm sorry,
You gave other people. Are you
don't-
doing it
if-
because I'm a woman and I'm Mexican and you don't want to let me talk? Huh? I mean, you've used it. You've used it. I just want to say that
Your time has
somebody made a
Ms. Hurtado,
comment
your
that
time has
that
expired.
holding
Ms. Hurtado, your
holding
time
the
has
recall
expired.
banner.
Ms. Hurtado, your time has expired. If you would
It's not
please step away
Hurtado,
from
it's
the
Jurado.
microphone.
I know, but I'm
Jurado,
asking
I
for a few more
apologize.
minutes. Just a couple of seconds. I'll be honest.
I
just wanted to
apologize. Your
make a
time has
comment that
expired.
somebody mentioned that holding
Ms. Hurtado, your
holding the
time has
recall
expired.
banner,
Ms.
if it
Hurtado-
was Kimberly.
Ms. Hurtado, you are out of order.
Okay, who am I going to hurt?
Next speaker is Maria Knox, followed by Francis Chung.
Mr. Clerk, I believe that we've come to the end of our first 30-minute speaking period. I believe you said that there are 3 or 4 more speakers left?
After Ms. Maria Knox, we have 3 speaker cards left.
Thank you. I'm going to take a motion to extend the time to entertain the last of our speakers instead of waiting all the way till the end of the meeting to hear them. So if there is a motion.
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Councilmember Melendez. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Jimenez, and by a voice vote, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. And hearing no objection, we'll continue with our speakers.
Good evening. I have one complaint. It's too cold. I don't know if you guys are keeping it cold to keep the temperature down, but I'm cold. Anyways, I'm wearing pink, and I know some people may laugh, but I purposely wore pink today because it represents charm, love, kindness. I know I'm very well aware of everything that is going on in the city, and it's very unfortunate because united, we win. Divided, we fail. We are a very small community. And I've talked to Mr. Melendez. I've talked to all of you. I even had a short conversation with Ms. Jimenez. And I love to see when you guys all work together. I would love to see you guys continue working together. And when I'm at the park with my little dog and I meet a lot of people, they praise how nice the park is, how well kept it is. And I would love to see that extend to the south, throughout the city, absolutely. I want to recognize and give a shout out to our director for Parks and Recreations, David Sosnowski. I'm sorry, I always mispronounce his name. I know there's a lot of negativity going on, and I don't want to repeat what everybody has been saying, all the threats. It's sickening. I am flabbergasted about everything that is going on and is consuming us. Pink also represents, or it's to bring cancer awareness. What is going on in our city is a cancer that is engulfing everybody and is dividing us. I'm not for division. I'm for unity and for working together and bringing the city to become better than Monterey Park. I've said it before. We can be a very prosperous city. Some people are moving into the city, at least that's what they have told me, because it's a very nice city. But watching and listening what's going on, it's so disappointing. I don't know, maybe I'm too naive to think that we can unite and work together. I hope it does happen because it is, again, It is a cancer that is consuming all of us, and it's not gonna lead us into anything good. Everybody keeps talking about lawsuits, claims, and whatnot. I hope that really stops, which I know it will.
Next speaker is Francis Chung, followed by Tila Gregorian.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council member. My name is Francis Chung. I'm the past president of AAPA, Asian American Professional Association, as well as their board member. I'm here to speak on making a character statement in support of Michael Chi. Also, Mei Chan Duan. She's also the IBM Global Procurement Director, retired. Steve Lau, the Vice President of GPB, and Pokeo Wong, President of GDI Investment, also signed on to my statement. I have had the privilege of knowing Michael Chi for the past 10 years, and during which time he has consistently demonstrated exceptional qualities of leadership, integrity, and dedication to community service. I first encountered Michael when he was served as the chair of the board at APCF, Asian Pacific Community Fund, in 2013. And since then, I have the opportunity to work closely with Michael when he joined AAPA as a member, or in 2016, as a mentor, and also later served on the board of directors. I was previously the president of AAPA as well as serving on the board and as a mentor for 20 years. And I'm making this statement in my individual capacity and not on behalf of any organization. And throughout his service to the community, Michael has established unwavering integrity and genuine passion for mentoring and helping the community succeed. His commitment to his mentees have been evident as they have shared with me how he and other mentors have positively impacted their career and transformed their lives. And Michael's dedication to mentoring speaks volumes about his character and his genuine desire to uplift and empower others. As a member of the nonprofit and business community, Michael has consistently proven himself to be a valuable asset, and it will be a valuable asset to this city. He is known for his commitment to speaking the truth and approaching discussions with strategic insight, engagement, and foresight. In conclusion, Michael Chi is a remarkable individual whose character, integrity, and dedication to community service make him valuable to nonprofits and to the broader community. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Tila Gregorian, followed by Linda Nicholas.
Good evening, council members, city residents. My name is Tila Gregorian, a resident of Montebello for more years than I care to disclose. However, I've always loved my city, and that's what worries me. There's been some things that have happened, and I will support this gentleman that just talked about, Michael Chi. Why he was fired is beyond my understanding. But then you also got rid of Renee Bombardia that actually saved your city from bankruptcy. My goodness, my tongue is really tied today. I think it's because I'm so upset on the things that I see happening in my city. I just cannot see why these things are happening, other than I think the real reason is sitting here leading our city. And I'll be surprised if in 2 years, our city will not be in bankruptcy. I also would like to wonder why you're bringing IC back when we already have other companies that are doing the work, and none of them have contracts. So why are you bringing them back? It's things that are just kind of like, what's going on? You fire people, you cause people to leave our city. Now you're changing our people that are doing a good job here in our city. Now you're bringing someone else. Is somebody getting paid for that? You, David, are unemployed. And that bothers me, because how do you live if you do not have a job? Scarlett didn't have a job for quite a while, but I hear now that she's employed. I'm very happy to hear that, because it makes it very tempting for people to come up to you and offer you deals for your vote or for your backup on whatever they want to do. So I really would like to, the rest of our city councils all have jobs. So I have a problem with you, David, not having a job. And I hope that you will, in the future, consider going back to work and be a taxpayer like the rest of us. Thank you.
Next speaker is Linda Nicholas.
Would you hand this to the mayor, please? Good evening. My name is Linda Nicholas, address on file. I would like to address the assembly that was held on Friday, June 23rd, 2023, in front of City Hall by Torres, Peralta, and Tamayo. David, are you aware that our city has a temporary use permit application process? We were told if we wanted to get that permit, it was going to cost us $600, and we had to wait 3 weeks. So our group respected the law. We didn't call more people to attend. We followed the letter of the law. I'm submitting the bill to you, to the three of you, for our city permit fees of $600. I will follow up to make sure it's paid. Since you are all about transparency, I would assume that you'd want to follow the law of the city that you serve. Also, David, last year, didn't you also circumvent the permit process when you asked Fireman Craig Barker to have Fire Marshal Cifuentes come to your stepfather's home at 237 Park Avenue and sign off approving a conversion of your residential home to an office building? You did not pay the $5,000 permit fee, nor did any inspections were done by the proper procedures. No notifications were given to your neighbors about a business office in the middle of their residential neighborhood. Would you please explain to us all why you are above the law and Montebello ordinances do not apply to you, Torres? Ironic, former Mayor Cobos Cawthorn did follow the law. Her architect submitted the plans, a check for $5,000 fee. She's still waiting for the inspectors to pass the electrical before the licensed contractor can complete the job. That's 8 months, and you got it by a phone call. Yet you made one phone call, and not only did you break the law, but you also involved 2 firemen who should not have signed off on any plans not stamped or approved by the planning department. Both firemen could have lost their jobs or been suspended, assisting you in breaking the law. Please pause my time and explain to everyone here why Montebello laws don't pertain to you, since you're all about transparency. Please explain to us that. I'm not going to pause my time, I guess. You, Torres, owed the city of Montebello another $5,000 and a letter of apology for breaking our city laws. You're not above the law, David. You're the mayor. You should lead by example. Don't circumvent and use your power to break the law. A few years ago, another man sitting in that same seat saying exactly what you're saying. Oh, don't listen to them. They're spreading lies. Well, guess what? When the state auditors investigated, I was vindicated, and everything we complained about was true. Our group match, 90640, is respected, and we will testify again at the next JLAX meeting, and they will be back.
That concludes all speaker cards.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and thank you to all of our speakers this evening. Ms. Salazar, are there any staff communications on items of community interest?
Mayor, I'd like to invite the community to our annual firework event at Grant Ray this Saturday. It starts at 2 o'clock. There's going to be resources available. We'll have activities for the kids. We'll have live music, and we'll also have a fireworks show at 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Salazar. Moving on to item number 9, adopting resolution number 2357, a public hearing establishing the residential solid waste collection and recycling charges annual rate adjustment. Ms. Salazar, is there a staff report?
No, sir, there's not, but Director Michael Solores is available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. At this time, I will open the public hearing at 8:12 p.m. Mr. City Clerk, do we have any comments on this item?
We do not have any speaker cards for this item.
Thank you very much. I will close the public hearing at 8:12 p.m. This is at the council level for discussion. I will look across the dais if there are any comments or questions on the item. And seeing none, I believe it's appropriate now to take a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
There's a motion by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Melendez. Mr. City Clerk, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Jimenez?
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye. Thank you very much, and the item passes unanimously. Moving on to regular business, item number 10, Montebello Fire Department Emergency Medical Services Delivery Model Update.
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to invite the Chief of Fire, Fernando Pelaez. Thank you.
Mayor, I do want to note that we do have a speaker card for this agenda item.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for this opportunity for us to present. I'll try to, in lieu of time, I'll try to just go along. It is a very important issue, and as a follow-up to Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Tamayo's questioning about our delivery model and staffing and concerns with the construction going on of the railway and also the possible closure of an ER room in our community. We've been looking at this. I've been following it. I've been talking to staff, and here's our assessment today. I'm going to start it right now. Okay, thank you. So vision statement, we're community-focused, value-driven. That's really important to me and to our staff, of course. So I'm going to go over a history of timeline for you guys. Our fire department was commissioned in June 20, 1922. Montebello Fire Department was ready to serve the community with an estimated population of 3,000 at that time. It was staffed by volunteers known as callmen. They were paid $1.50 to $5 per run. Nightmen received $20 per month, and to sleep at the station for handling of overnight incidents. In 1940, salaried personnel increased from 7 to 9 due to the increase in population, leading to an increase in rescue calls. In 1951, our Station 57 at Villa Costa was funded by a voter-approved bond in the amount of $45,000. 1965, the population had grown to over 40,000, with fire personnel now at 54. And we responded to 400 calls, 400 plus rescue calls that year. In 1970 was a big mark in Los Angeles County with the start and establishment of the paramedic program. So in 1970, 1972, we started our paramedic program, starting advanced life support treatment long before a person could reach the emergency room. In the 1980s, we expanded to incorporate state certified heavy rescue teams, disaster teams, fire mechanics program, hazardous material team, formalizing training for all ranks. And then in 2000, we implemented a model known as medic engines. We went away from the squads, and this model was We eliminated the use of the squads, and the department started hiring only paramedics, moving away from its traditional firefighter EMT position that were on the fire engines at the time. Then in 2023, we had a big milestone. After 30 years, our department had remained we had an ISO classification of 3, and we recently participated in the reclassifying ourselves, and we were reclassified to a 2, and we'll apply again and hopefully get that down to a 1. There's a picture of our first paramedic squad in 1972, and our paramedics, our first class of paramedics that attended Daniel Freeman Paramedic School. I've got a current org chart for you guys to look at. You can see the fire chief, 1 FTO. We have our deputy director. There's the oversight that she has. We have our assistant fire chief, and there's the areas of responsibility that he oversees. This was in the 50s. We had a rescue squad at the time. They were not paramedics, but they did respond to rescues. So this is our current service delivery model we have right now. Fully staffed. We have a 4-0 delivery model. As you can see it, we have a captain, engineer, and 2 firefighters. Per day, this is what we're staffed for, 17 per day. And it's divided into 3 shifts. So this is 1 shift with the battalion chief, as you're looking at now. This is something very interesting. We want to provide this data to you. So in 1991, we responded to 4,302 calls with 17 personnel on duty per day. If you fast forward to 2022, we responded to 9,437 calls with 17 per duty per day. You can see the huge increase of the charts there. This is data from Verdugo. EMS calls and medical calls service year. So in 2021, total medical calls were 6,608. In 2022, they were 7,064, an increase of 456 medical calls from in 2022 from 2021. Our calls continue to go up. The challenges, we run to 74% of our total calls are medical calls. The rest of them break down into fires, rescues, TCs, hazardous material incidents, the calls of that nature. So here's a service model that I wanted to present to you. It is taking our service model back to squads, where we were originally when the program started. It's also a model that is being used throughout the county. Most departments are running this model. So we would continue to have our 4-man engines, as you can see there, but we would add 3 squads, Squad 55, Squad 56, Squad 57. We would still have a battalion chief. We would increase to 24 on duty per day from 17. The advantage to those squads is that when a medical call comes in, the engine and the squad would respond together. The beauty of it is as they do a follow-up to an emergency room, wherever it may be, the squad would then take that patient to that hospital and follow up, and the engine would remain in the city and in service. So keeping our fire resources in the community. With our current delivery model, our engines are out of the city doing follow-up on patients, and at times it's not uncommon to have all 3 engines out of the city, which is something that really concerns me, and it's not a model that is sustainable at this time. Preparing for change. Some of the items that we need to look at. I think if we're not looking at change, if we're not, I think it's my responsibility to bring this to you and highlight these areas. We have a potential loss of an emergency room. With that being said, already services at that local hospital have been reduced just to emergency room. So that is concerning. Housing and community redevelopment. There's new housing, Metro Heights, 1,200 homes, Cesar Chavez, business development, Top Golf. These are all going to impact us. They're going to add a substantial amount more calls. We're already being tested to the brinks of our capacity. If you're not aware, there's a Senate Bill 402. I would ask you to research it, but basically, in essence, what it is, it's they want to shift the burden of to fire at this time. So the bill will require 911 or other service centers for service relating to mental health or homelessness as specified to be dispatched to fire districts or department personnel, EMS personnel, mental health personnel, or non-sworn unarmed personnel, and not police officers, except as otherwise indicated. This is a bill that right now, as it will impact us if it does pass. So the fire chiefs in the region are currently working and trying to work with the author of the bill because it is going to be a huge impact to the fire service. So we are concerned about this. We are watching it very close and watching its progress as it moves along. All risk fire and fire department. Here is the what the staff would look like. Again, we have our engines, 55, our truck, our 56, our 57 would be four-man engines, and then we would have our squads, and then we have MCAP there. And the beauty of this is one of the things that we're doing is I've been in contact with Department of Health Services and provided them a letter of intent. Our transportation rights are up in 25, 26, and that is something that we do not have transportation rights right now in the city. We're one of 3 cities in the county that doesn't. But I've been in contact with them and have expressed our interest that we do want to, when that opportunity comes up, we do want to bid for our transportation rights. And if everything lines up, you can see the squad model could transition into the RAs, which are the rescue ambulances there. So it would be lining up with that. So timeline. Obviously, in July of 2023, we're going to bring to you a staff report with the cost and the amount that it's going to take to purchase these squads to be able to implement. We do have 1 squad available to us right now that we have currently in the city that is being used by our staff, and we do have an additional squad that we've found that's available to us to purchase. That would be 2 squads that would allow us to roll as early as September and October, this model. The rest of the squads would have to be purchased, and it would probably take a year before we would get those squads. There's the timeline of those squads that we would order. I don't want to get ahead of myself and tell you that I would be able to deliver 3 squads and have 3 paramedic units in the city, but we would still have our engines with paramedics. So I want to highlight a organizational chart of 1992. I've circled an emergency service coordinator that we had back then, and that position went away somewhere along the line. I don't know how it did, but that person assisted our new medics training and development of our new paramedics. At this time, I want to invite Dr. Loza, Angie Loza Gomez. She's our medical director for the fire department. She's also an associate professor of emergency medicine at the University of Southern California, and she really has the oversight of our paramedic program. But I wanted her to speak on the importance of our squads and where we're at right now in the county. Dr. Loza.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Like Chief said, I do fully endorse what has been requested of the fire chief. It is quite a task to attend to the needs of a city as busy as Montebello, the medical needs of the children that they serve, the adults that they serve. it's really phenomenal to really review all of their medical calls, as I do, and be truly proud of all the work that they do. They're very stressed for the high volume that goes up every year, as you saw on those slides. And at the same time, their staffing model has stayed stagnant, and that's quite concerning. As the fire chief has mentioned, I have had multiple conversations with him about the need to change with the times. And I think this is a perfect time to consider a new staffing model and a new delivery model. As he mentioned, we are at risk of losing our emergency department, and which would be a complete crisis for the fire department and the city and the residents of Montebello. I work at the Los Angeles General Medical Center. I know what a very busy emergency department looks like, and Beverly is very busy, and they serve the community well, but they are in bankruptcy, and that is an extreme loss for the city. And so at this time, if we have a critical patient, namely a child who's critical, the engines have to go out of the city and into the general hospital where I work, which gets, one engine, maybe 2 engines out of the city, and maybe even, like was mentioned, 3 engines at the same time. If we have a heart attack, they also have the transport outside of the city because Beverly no longer accepts heart attacks. And so the services being, diminished every month. And now that we are at risk of losing the emergency department, that even stresses the fire department even more. So with all that being said, I do want to plea for an EMS battalion chief for 40 hours. I work with the battalion chief for the EMS division at this time, and he is a shift battalion chief who oftentimes is very busy and cannot, his span of control is too much. All the patient, the records, all the, the medical care that's delivered needs quality improvement, it needs review, it needs narcotic stalking, it needs to, medical errors and medication errors really need to be looked at. And so really here we need someone who is here fully 40 hours, seeing the squads with the new delivery system, being able to come back to the station and be able to, talk about cases and being able to kind of understand what they've done and being able to serve the community well. In addition, the wellness and the fatigue, essentially, that's going on with our fire departments and police officers, we really need to focus our attention to that, and I feel that this position would really serve that purpose as well. With my direction and along with the Department of Health Services, I think that we can really, again, change with the times and have a dynamic delivery model along with a supervisory role that we can better serve the community of Montebello. And so with that being said, this is my one slide I was responsible for, and I think the fire chief is up next. I can take more questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rosa.
Yep.
So department staffing changes. There's a comprehensive focus on hiring in order to fill vacancies in the firefighter ranks as outlined in the graph below. Firefighter paramedic, firefighter lateral paramedic, firefighters EMT, reserve auxiliaries. We're developing a training unit with our training battalion chief. And we identified the following positions for paramedic training school. The Captain Miller, we have that trust fund that we have to develop our own from within, explorers, auxiliaries, and then put them through the Cap Miller program into paramedic school. And then our EMS division, we would be our EMS chief. Recruitment and engagement strategies. So what are we doing? We're working with fire explorers. At this time, we're at max capacity. I've been talking to our advisor. We want to expand the amount of youth that we can take into our explorer post. We're turning away explorers, and that's not something I want to hear. This is a community-based program. This is where our future firefighters come from, so we're expanding that program. I've also worked with Rio Hondo Fire Academy in sponsoring our explorers into the academy so that they can come back and be our reserves. Work with Verdugo Fire Academy in sponsoring our explorers so they can come back and be our reserves. So our fire career development, we have the reserve program, which is our auxiliary program. We have a partnership with Paramedic Training Institute, PTI. That's where we send all our students to become paramedics. We have the Captain Miller Paramedic Training Program. We have partnerships with the East Los Angeles College Fire Academic Program. And then something new that we started as of about a month ago, we started firefighter paramedic recruitment on-the-go interviews every Thursday. So we're doing interviews every Thursday. We're capturing them. We're moving them along the process a lot faster. So there are so many agencies that we're competing with. So this is already starting to, we're starting to establish a good pool of firefighter paramedics. We have our fire EMT paramedics also, and we have our lateral. So we have 3 entries into our staffing model. So we're fostering innovations, against tradition versus innovation. That's the Montebello Fire Department in the 1920s. So we obviously, tradition ceases to exist if we stop being innovative. So the next steps for Montebello Fire were doing an analysis of the fire department staffing matrix, assessment of current FTEs filled and vacant positions. We have a cost analysis, and we're going to prepare a staff report for approval of squads and engines and fire apparatus. And I always like to end with our core values, professionalism, integrity, compassion, service, honesty, stewardship, and courteousness, something that we will not deviate from, and that's what our guiding light is. And the only other update that I would have for you is that we do have an academy scheduled for July 17th. So we're ready to go, and our staffing is going to start looking a lot healthier here by the end of summer. So with that, I'm open to any questions. Dr. Loza is here to answer any questions, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Chief Pelaez, for the presentation. Questions or comments, Councilmember Jimenez?
No questions, just comments. Thank you, Chief, and thank you for, it's tough that you have to say you're pleading for this, and it's something that, clearly it's something that is really needed in the department to ensure that you continue doing the work that this department has been doing. I don't have any questions, I just wanted to say thank you.
Pleasure. It truly is. I oftentimes say the medical care that the fire department provides is exceptional. And it is a little frustrating to see them work, night after night, and being forced to stay long hours after and overtime. So really, it's time to change that staffing model.
One thing I do want to emphasize is you did mention that the Beverly Hospital is no longer taking cardiac or heart arrest patients. My father died of a heart attack, and his first heart attack was at 53. Later in his life, he continued to live with his heart, and then when he was 65, he had another heart attack. And it was our paramedics here that went and picked them up out of the bathtub. And thanks to the services that, yes, I know that everyone, it's always about being short-staffed, and unfortunately, but they were able to actually take him to county. They didn't transport him to Beverly Hospital. He was taken to county. So I just want to make sure that people understand the importance. It's an understatement, right? But thank you again, and I'm fully supportive of all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jimenez. Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. No questions, just some comments. Thank you for the presentation. Just some thoughts here. This new model provides, an opportunity to succeed and to better serve our community. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate the urgency, especially with everything that's going on, at Beverly Hospital, to the community. We don't want to put anybody in panic, but there are several services that have been diminished, and we definitely need to change our service model, be more proactive, adapt with the times. So again, this is a great first step. I know this is not an action item, is a receive and file, but I do believe that if we don't adopt this model, we would definitely put people's lives in jeopardy. So again, I want to thank you all for the presentation, and urge my colleagues that, this is a huge first step into this, and there's a lot of urgency here. There's a lot happening around us. There's Beverly Hospital situation, and we definitely need to be, continuing this path of being proactive about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Melendez. Councilmember Tamayo.
Thank you for the presentation. I know fire is a priority here in our community, so thank you for walking us through what that would look like, and what some of the advantages, some of the changes would be, and benefits to our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tamayo. Mayor Pro Tem Peralta.
Yes, thank you so much, Chief, and thank you as well for providing us an insight as far as how we can begin addressing some of our issues that we're facing in regards to retention, in regards to how our firefighters are responding to the increase of calls that we're getting, and how we're able to assist them through just structural changes within the department, and really just staff's work in regards to addressing the immediate changes that we're seeing with Beverly Hospital, ensuring that we don't have our trucks and our operations affected by that when they have to leave the city to divert patients to other hospitals. Making sure we keep our engines here, I think, is of utmost importance, as we're seeing just a spark of fires and issues within our community. And I'm really looking forward to understanding a little bit more of the additional steps. Some of my questions that I do have are actually, I think, would be addressed within the additional analysis that we'll be receiving. And just to kind of state them, I'm not sure if we're ready to answer them, or I can bring them back once we receive some of the information that's being provided in the next steps. But I'd like to understand how will restructuring the department with our current limited capacity of firefighters affect our department's capacity in responding to those augmentations of calls that we're receiving. I'm not sure if we're ready for that question yet. I can wait till we receive the additional analysis of the staffing matrix and assessment of positions.
Get you those answers, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Definitely.
And then another question, which I'm happy to bring back as well, is just, realistically speaking, we have a lot of issues with retention, turnover, and these are issues that all our departments throughout the country are facing, not just Montebello. And I am really happy to see some of the extensive work that's being done in order to begin addressing those issues of lower staffing that we have right now, seeing that we're doing, interviews every Thursday, and really being proactive in our partnerships that we're having with our community colleges and with the different firefighter slash paramedic programs, and being able to sponsor those that are interested in this career, I think, is extremely crucial in ensuring that we're creating that pipeline in our community that is converting folks to become firefighters, and giving them this lifelong career and prideness of representing their community. I know we have several firefighters within our department that were born and raised in Montebello, and that's always, I think, extremely important for our community, that we have people within our departments that understand the uniqueness of our community and really have that vested interest of our residents. I would like to understand, and I think this will come in the next steps as we continue this conversation, is just realistically speaking, with our current issues that we do have and restructuring the department, when can we envision this new structure really settling in and saying, we're in this place where we've adopted this new structure of our department, and things are kind of flowing and finally able to operate at a capacity? I know that's kind of looking at a magic 8-ball and projecting out, right? And I know we're facing a lot of issues, but just kind of understanding, I think some of those outstanding questions would be something that I'm interested in continuing further, as we're seeing cost analysis, assessment of vacant positions in the incoming conversations. Thank you.
First of all, Dr. Loza, welcome to the Montebello City Council meeting, and just want to acknowledge the work that you do. It looks like either you're in the middle of a shift or you came from work, so I just want to appreciate your dedication to your profession and continue to advocate and work with our community. As a note, on the Beverly Hospital side, to give a little bit of an update to the community, the auction was held yesterday, and American Healthcare Systems prevailed in the bid. I had the ability to speak with council a little bit earlier today, and American Healthcare Systems did commit to restoring the services that had been rolled back, including the emergency services department, the services that were provided in the maternity ward, as well as pediatrics. So we're very excited to hear about that commitment, and we just want to make sure that we stay on them and make sure that they deliver on that commitment. I also want to celebrate the victory that the staff, that there's been a commitment to keep the staff, to retain the employees, retain their pay, and retain their contracts. So we should see a lot of that return. However, that doesn't get rid of the issue that we see in the region, particularly the issue of diversion, which has led us, not only with the reduction in services at Beverly Hospital, but led our fire department all over the region just trying to get a medical provider to attend to some of the medical issues that we see. That quote's going to stick with me: when everyone's on diversion, nobody is. And that's, I think, some of what we're trying to address with this plan. So the first question that I wanted to ask is, in updating the firefighter MOUs last year, we got rid of minimum manning. Chief, can you speak a little bit to that? Because it sounded like that isn't quite an issue anymore. Do we see full staffing on our shifts?
We're working towards that, Mayor. So we are working towards fully staffed department. I do see now with the robust partnership that we have going with HR, the applicants, how we're processing them a lot faster. So I do see that we're going to be staffing a department here really soon. Again, retention, the region, the departments that we're challenging each other completely in the region right now, which it's the nature right now of the business. I've never seen anything like this in my almost 4 decades of service. It is, we're having to evolve. We're having to reinvent. The model that we're going to keep our fire engines in town now, the fact that in the MOU we identified giving a medic and rank was huge. I still want to continue expanding on that, because now we're able to use our senior captains, our senior engineers that provide a lot of mentorship. So we're able to get creative, and I think that was done through this MOU. And I hope I'm answering your question correct, Mayor?
Yes, absolutely, Chief. And I appreciate that attitude, one of revisiting assumptions and just saying, are the things that we held true still true today? And if not, how do we take a new look at things and kind of like reimagine what our services are and how we deliver them? If you can just quickly delineate for me the difference between a firefighter paramedic and a firefighter EMT.
Sure. I think Dr. Loza could probably do a way better job than I
can do that. Yes, no
Absolutely.
problem.
I'll defer to her.
So at a minimum, firefighters in California need to have an EMT certification, or else you are not allowed to do firefighting services. And so EMT pretty much means that you are credentialed to provide basic BLS services. So, assist someone who has fallen, very, very minimal interventions. They can help someone breathe a little bit by adjusting their airway and doing chest compression and so on. And that's what a basic EMT does. And now for extra training, extra certification is a paramedic, and then in that case, they can provide advanced life-saving measures. And so they can insert IVs, they can put a breathing tube, they can put pads and cardiovert and do a lot more advanced interventions than the EMTs. But that being said, paramedic school costs money, and it's a lot of extra training that firefighters either love or not love. And so it's easier to keep firefighter EMTs, and we have a lot more of those versus firefighter paramedics. And that is not a Montebello problem, it's a statewide problem. And so we are always lacking in those firefighter paramedic dual roles. So me coming from medical profession, I would love to see more paramedics, but that's not necessarily what the fire service, what the guys go into the fire service for. It is about 75 to 80% of the calls we go to are medical calls, but it's just hard to retain them. Like the fire chief said, it's really hard. And again, healthcare in general is in a crisis. So hospitals closing, diversion. Our nurses are also all leaving the healthcare service after COVID and post-COVID. Morale is low. I see it at the hospital. I see it with young physicians, nurses, medics. So it's really a crisis that everyone is experiencing, but with the fire chief and the team we have here, I think, again, and with your support, I think we can be innovative. And I think that creating this mentorship program with retention is really important. So grassroots is really, really important. I can't stress that enough. And I think, I hope I answered that, just if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was familiar that our department had a higher standard for our personnel, being firefighter paramedics. I wasn't familiar with that EMT being appended to the end, but that's my more traditional understanding of what a firefighter is and what they do. So thank you for that clarification. So Chief, I imagine that this would be somewhat of a pipeline that as we seek firefighter paramedics, we're able to kind of at least get some bodies in the door, start employing some of our more basic services, and I imagine hopefully get them trained up to eventually be firefighter paramedics. But in terms of, go ahead.
That is exactly the goal, Mayor, is to bring in the explorer, the auxiliary, the firefighter, and eventually get him through paramedic school so that we keep kind of like the farm league and then bring them up to the majors is the analogy. So we have a feeder because we're using our own kids from our community and we're developing them. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. And that's where I see our future right there because there's the buy-in. This is all they know, homegrown, schooled here, and they want to work hard for us. So, and I'm seeing that already. So, but it's going to take a little bit.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
One thing that I always mention in terms of my philosophy of government is that the things that we're responsible for at our core, our safety and security and infrastructure, our public safety departments absolutely fit in those core operations. I appreciate the comments from my colleagues that, that every life is valuable and that we should seek, pretty extensive means to try and preserve that. At the same time, realizing the limitations of our city budget, firefighter and police being, 65, 70% of our annual budget, and police facing a lot of the same issues that fire is in terms of retention, hiring, in terms of equipment, and the general environment, right? Trying to compete against larger entities that have probably better pay and less work. These steps we do have to be very prudent about. Right, the money is not infinite. Our resources are scarce, and as we've seen in the most recent budget presentation, I think we had tens of millions of dollars of need, but only a couple $1 million to try and start addressing that. So I'm very sensitive to the medical needs and the emergency needs of our community. At the same time, I think one of the major tasks that we have are to look at pay, to look at benefits, to look at what our service delivery model looks like and make sure that it's appropriate for a city our size. So I just want to note that. I don't think anyone here would question our commitment to ensuring the safety of our community. However, we do have to be somewhat realistic about what we're able to accomplish. And so to that extent, and I appreciate that this slide is still up because what I would ask of my colleagues and staff is that if we would be able to have a follow-up study session once the analysis of the fire department staffing matrix is complete, the assessment of the FTEs and the staff report on squads and engines, if we would just be able to kind of like reconvene and circle back and just in depth and in detail talk about financially what this looks like for the city, just to make sure that this is something that we're able to sustain on the long term and not something that might be posturing because of any particular political pressures. And Chief, I just it goes without saying that we trust the efforts that you're putting into carefully analyzing these kinds of plans, but I think in terms of what we do here in council meetings is just making sure that the public, and by extension, the city council that they elect are on the same page with staff as we move forward on this together. So that will conclude my comments. I guess I'll make a motion to, oh, and I apologize, Mr. Clerk, we'll hear the public comment.
Yes, so we do have one speaker for this agenda item, Mr. Will Silvera.
Hey, Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm in favor of agenda item number 10. And I understand that you guys are looking at a fiscal cost, and I think you guys also need to look at this on several levels. We're going to be spending a lot of money, and where the current pay scale for the fire department is, we're like right in the median, and we're not really offering the benefits. And as the mayor just stated, it's roughly about 60% of our budget. So we need to be innovative, and if we do move this with Chief Pelaez as far as starting to have our medic squads, what it allows you to do is when we apply back for the transport rights, now you're gonna be able to start bringing in funds for your firefighters that are not gonna be coming out of the $500 for transport fee that's billed to the residents that are already hurting. It's an inflated economy. You also need to figure out a way so we can generate revenue without affecting so many residents. And this way we can create an environment that we're gonna be able to have retention. We need to be able to do this on several levels. And yes, it's going to be expensive, but I believe Chief Pelaez, I believe Monterey Park says that it generates over $5 million just straight to the employees afterwards, right? After the bills are paid. So that's $5 million of revenue. What else do we have that's going to bring that in? Every day we have it, and you know, like they said, the Beverly Hospital, thankfully you gave us that news, that sounds great, but unfortunately a lot of staff has jumped ship because they're in fear of their next paycheck. So they also left, so we don't know what the requirements are gonna be, and I have driven code and transported people, worked with Air 5, and I can tell you right now, when you have
created just south of those turning lanes would create, if you think that it would create any kind of safety issue in terms of if there was an instance where northbound and southbound traffic were both entering and trying to turn, if that could accommodate multiple vehicles.
We would certainly look at that during final design, just to make sure the final configuration and geometry is safe for both directions. I don't believe there's any driveways on the east side, but we certainly will consider that.
Sure, thank you. And the second question is if these medians would include landscaping and when that would come into the decision-making process.
The plan is to include landscaping, and our plan was to match the landscaping palette that was just completed just north of that, north of Lincoln. If the council would like to see something else there, we can certainly take a look at that and come up with some concepts.
I think that's fine, personally, keeping that uniform look from north all the way through south. And that was it for my questions. Thank you very much, Director. With that, and being the member that pulled the item, I'll make the motion to approve item number 12.
I'll second it.
There's a second by Councilmember Jimenez. Mr. City Clerk?
Councilmember Jimenez?
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye. The item passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 14, Information Technology Infrastructure Project Status Update and Budget Amendment. Mr. City Clerk, I believe we have a speaker card.
Yes, for agenda item number 14, Will Severo.
Hi, Council. I'm a little perplexed on this one because if I remember right, this is for IBE Digital, and there was an issue regarding when the council was bringing up that there was no actual contract in this, and I've noticed like this is like the third time that we're amending the same budget because of unforeseen financials, but I also find it a little weird because in our past, we'll approve like buying police cars, and then all of a sudden, we don't buy the police cars, it goes to staffing, it goes to promotions. So I'm curious, is this extra money that's needed, is it because the council said we're not gonna create a new department? Because all of a sudden now we need another $3 million. Also, there needs to be clarifications in providing what was included in the IBE digital contract when we were gonna do the IT, because there's not actually anything in there that's gonna itemize everything, and we keep on coming back to amend it because, oh, we didn't have licensings. But when they approached the city and when the former mayor said everything, she said, hey, we have to approve it now. It's all in here, we're gonna be good. Now, $4 or $5 million later, we're still amending it. And I did find it interesting because I believe a conflict of interest possibly could have happened with these people because they donated after those contracts have been done to, I believe, every council person, IBE Digital. So I find it a little weird that, again, you know, we keep on having these donations, large donations by vendors, and then they pass. And this one example, we didn't have any of the contract in front of us. You didn't have it in the agenda packet, and when I asked council people, they said they didn't have anything, but it was still voted through. We need to really tighten the ship on those kind of expenditures. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Also a thank you to staff for providing the information that's been requested in terms of the various proposals and reviews of the companies. There were some questions that arose in my mind from some of the documents that were provided, so I would ask my colleagues to continue this item to the following meeting. If there are no other questions or comments on that, I'll make a motion to that effect to continue this item to the second meeting, or since we're going dark for the first meeting in July, the second regular meeting in July. Is there a motion?
All motion?
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Peralta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Tamayo. Mr. City Clerk?
Councilmember Jimenez?
No.
Councilmember Melendez?
No.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye. And thank you to those colleagues for that accommodation. Moving on to item number 19, adopt resolution number 2355, approving Montebello Bus Line's comprehensive operations analysis final report, and authorize staff to begin implementation of the plan. Director Kendricks, thank you so much for approaching the
Good evening,
lectern.
Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council.
So I don't have any questions or comments as of yet. Actually, what my request was going to be is if we could continue this item to a study session. The transit department being almost the size of our general fund and the services that we offer being extensive, this is a really huge update in our service and our service delivery. So I wanted to just understand a little bit more, someone being a transit rider myself for 4 years, just the changes that are happening, what our riders can expect, and how overall this will improve our operations. So if we could,
So this
Ms.
is
Kendrick?
the extensive study session. This is our comprehensive operations analysis where they did a line-by-line analysis. They rode the buses. This is the meat and potatoes of that report.
Adriana, just for clarification, do we need to adopt it before we do the next,
That is scheduled for the end of July. And
We issue 2 times a year, we go out to bid. Is that-
three. So on the maintenance side, they bid twice a year, and then with the agreement with SMART, with the bus operators, we bid 3 times a year. And so really just with the adjustments, and there's other cities looking into it as far as what Montebello Bus Lines is doing. There's a lot of neighboring cities, Pico Rivera, La Mirada, that are dependent on this COA. This also takes us to the extension for Cal State LA.
Right, I appreciate that. Would it be possible to schedule a study session perhaps in advance of what sounds like that date?
The 29th of July.
And so the report is substantial, and so just to help us kind of like further understand what changes it includes and some of the more major provisions, if there could be kind of like a summary presentation and a discussion on that. Because right now it's listed in the consent calendar portion, so it's not as easy to understand.
Well, even our consultant also did, they too were here, and they did presentations to show the robust report that was to come.
So it sounds like you want to do a special study session like in the next 3 weeks, the week before the system.
And we can include it with the one for fire as well. Mhm. Thank you very much, Director Kendricks. So I will take a motion to the effect that this item is continued to a study session sometime in July. Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Peralta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Tamayo. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Abstain.
Councilmember Melendez,
No.
Councilmember Tamayo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta,
Aye.
Mayor Torres.
Aye, and the item passes 3 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstain. Moving on to item number 21. Thank you very much, Mr. City Attorney. Approve professional services agreement number 4114 for economic development data and analysis services with CoStar Group. So this is what may be a very new and exciting offering by the City of Montebello to our residents to connect them to mental and medical health care services. This would be a service that everyone would be able to access. I just had a couple notes as to the agreement.
Mayor, are you speaking to item number 24 with Care Solace or item 21? I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I think I'm skipping around here. I apologize. I'm moving around my notes. So for this particular item, the action that's being requested of council is that we authorize the city manager to engage in this contract. I wanted to take this moment to just talk a little bit about the way that we go about procurement and an interpretation of our municipal code. There has been the question as to the city manager's authority in terms of entering into contracts and what their spending authority is. This one being, I think, about $8,000 a year is less than what the Montebello Municipal Code Section 321050 states is the authorization limit for the city manager. And as such, I don't believe that council action is necessary to approve this contract. Specifically, the code section states that the following procedure shall be used, that the city manager will get quotes from 3 consultants or firms in an informal basis. The city manager shall approve in writing the award of all such contracts. And lastly, the city manager or his or her duly authorized designee is authorized to approve in writing professional special service contracts with an annual estimated cost of less than $50,000. This is something where we've been having some conversation on and trying to understand and pull apart any kind of like misunderstandings that are and conflicts within the municipal code. So I kind of want to take this as an opportunity to direct the city attorney to kind of deliver his opinion, basically reinforcing the fact that the city manager has that authority under $50,000 to enter into these contracts, and also directing the city manager to use their authority to do such in this instance. So I will make a motion to that effect if there are no other questions or comments.
Sorry, what's the motion again? What direction are you looking for?
Sure. The first part is directing the city attorney to deliver a final opinion on the ability of the city manager to enter into contracts of less than $50,000 in the annual amount. And then the second part would be directing the city manager to use that authority. That's listed currently in the municipal code, section 321050.
Sorry, just trying to get clarification. So how is that applicable to this item? Like, are we adding an additional, like?
It's essentially the same action, but taking this as an opportunity, without violating the Brown Act and the public meeting and everything else, to get that clarification on this section of the municipal code.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to that effect. Is there a second?
I will second.
There's a second by Mayor Pro Tem Peralta. Mr. City Clerk?
Councilmember Jimenez?
No.
Councilmember Melendez?
No.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye. And that is 3 ayes and 2 nays. Moving on to item number 22, approve issuing request for proposals, RFP number 24-1 for golf course management, maintenance, and operation services. I apologize, I pulled this one in error. I will make a motion to approve.
I will second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Jimenez?
I'm sorry, what item are we on now?
22, which I pulled in error. Mr. City Clerk?
Councilmember Jimenez?
Aye.
Councilmember Melendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye. The item passes unanimously. Next is item number 23, which was pulled by a member of the public. Authorize submission of an application for license agreement with Southern California Edison for potential Ashia Park expansion and Montebello Edison Trails project. Mr. City Clerk?
Yes, we do have a speaker, Linda Nicholas, for agenda item number 23.
Good evening again. When I first heard about this project, I was worried about the high voltage lines. I didn't want it to become another puro plant place where they had toxic waste underneath where people were at. If they're gonna have gates, I think it's a good idea. I would also ask, I'm gonna call and see if she's still there. Her name was Hancock. And when they gave us the funding to convert items at Grant Ray Park. I called her up and thanked her, and I said if any other cities didn't want the funding, Montebello would accept anything for the parks. And I think we should look into updating our parks for especially, and I won't say handicap, children with special needs. I think it breaks my heart when you see kids that are in wheelchairs and kids that have special needs, and we don't have any equipment in any of our parks to let them have fun at the park. And I think that should have a high priority over dog parks or anything else. So I would ask that, maybe the park in the south, I know Hollyfoot Park has been horrendous for years. When Gold Soccer wanted to take it over, unfortunately, we had a council member that was against it. We would have had a beautiful facility. The place still looks the same. We need to upgrade that park. There's a lot of people in the south that need that park. And I would please ask, before we look into this trail, look into getting equipment for special needs children, please. And Ms. Peralta, you do have another park in your district. It's the Dutcher Park Lot at the Quiet Cannon, named after Tom Dutcher's grandfather.
And I believe that concludes our comments. Are there any questions or comments by council? And I'll go down the line. Councilmember Jimenez.
Again, as everyone in the city and all the residents, and it's a clear understanding that everyone is welcome to every place in the city of Montebello. I feel that while this is parks do make communities better. I have, for a very long time, of course, being a mother, used every single park in our city. Having my children in the summer programs. As a runner, I look for trails. As the leader of a running group, I want to make sure that our runners continue to run through the city where they are safe, where it doesn't only feel safe, but it's aesthetically welcoming and pleasing. And I want to support this. However, I want to make sure that the south side, just like any part of the city, is considered and not prioritized, but that we receive the same amount of attention. So while we're looking into beautifying this space and making better use of these open spaces, I want to make sure that our park down, again, specifically Holyfield, gets the love that it needs and the attention that it's been, really, it's just been neglected for a very long time. So I would ask that we look into this, and it's not a priority at the moment, and I don't feel that it is right now. I ran through Ashia Park this morning, and thanks to our staff and our team, both sides of the park look beautiful. Yes, there are parts, and it's, again, as with every park in the city, and I know this firsthand at Reggie Park, we always have, whether it's a homeless person occupying a space, or these spaces do attract a lot of unwanted behavior. I want to make sure, again, that we do consider these types of opportunities for every part of the city, but again, to make sure that before we take a look into this, that every park in our city gets, specifically, again, in the south side, gets the love and attention that it needs.
Councilmember Melendez.
No comments.
Councilmember Tamayo.
My comment would be that, the parks, again, are an amenity that is needed by our community. So if there's an initiative to move forward to improve our parks, I'm all for it.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta.
Yes, I want to thank the speaker who did a public comment. I think it's so important to have that conversation about expanding programming and our facilities and accessibility for children and adults with disabilities. And I want to thank this council for actually taking action. So we're finally, and staff for bringing forward a feasibility study to really analyze the accessibility of our public facilities and being able to really pinpoint where we are being deficient and where we can improve in regards to adding amenities for children with disabilities and beginning to address that gap within our parks that we currently don't have. And so I'm excited to really bring those items forward and begin just expanding not only programming, but actually the amenities at our parks where we currently don't have access for children of all abilities. And with that, this specific item does not commit any funding. It literally is an application to just allow council to set the vision of what this space could be. And I think it's important to not invalidate the concerns of our residents in this area by stating that this is not a priority when their backyards are connected to these long corridors that are causing issues in regards to trespassing. They're underutilized vacant properties that are literally just sitting with overgrown weeds, with people trespassing and committing crimes. If there's an opportunity to really set that vision forward of creating a walking trail, of creating a biking trail in this area to, again, expand our open space, I think it's important to begin the steps of setting that vision. And so with that, I would like to make the motion of approving this item.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Peralta. I have no questions or comments. So there is a first by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? I'll second it. Second by Councilmember Jimenez. Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Jimenez? Aye. Councilmember Melendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye, and the item passes unanimously. Next, we have item number 24, approve agreement number 4115 with Care Solace to provide assistance to residents connecting with community-based counseling. And this is the one that I was speaking on earlier. Thank you to staff for bringing this forward. This is an exciting new service that we are going to be offering to our residents, connecting them with medical and mental health care providers quickly, easily, confidentially, and also as a resource for our fire and MCAP and police teams to use in their service calls as they engage with residents that are in those moments of crisis and when they probably most need someone to talk to. That being said, I did want to note two things in the contract. First of all, I didn't see a term on the contract. I did see that it's for 1 year and that it renews year over year. However, according to our municipal code, there can be no more than a 5-year contract. So I did want to point that out. And the second thing is that I'm, as I mentioned, very excited about this new offering. At the same time, I do want to be careful and prudent about the way that we spend our money, and I would ask that this be used as maybe more of a pilot project for the first year with an analysis done and a report brought back to council at maybe month 10 or 11 as to like how much this service is being used and if we see this really being the effective way to connect residents to service providers. And at that time, continuing the contract. So Ms. Salazar, I don't know if you can speak to those 2 points. One, the 5-year term, and then two, if we can do this as kind of like a 1-year pilot.
Sure. So we do have representatives from Care Solace. Anita Ward is here to answer any other questions, but in regards to our term, that was the original discussion that we would initiate the 1-year term with the option for evaluation, assessment, closer, as you mentioned, to the 10th month, 11th month, and see how well we're using it. And so that is part of that consideration.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And now I understand the smiling faces in the background. Thank you so much for this amazing program that you provide. So with that being the understanding, sounds like no amendments are needed here. I will make a motion to approve. There's a second by Councilmember Jimenez. Mr. City Clerk.
Councilmember Jimenez? Councilmember Melendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Tamayo?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Peralta?
Aye.
Mayor Torres?
Aye, and the item passes unanimously. Thank you very much to my colleagues. Next, we're moving on to AB 1234 travel reports. And I will look across the dais. Seeing none, and being that there are no council or agency orals, I believe that it would be appropriate to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
There is, and Ms. Salazar, do we need to make a motion to adjourn the meeting to July 26th?
Yes, please, Mayor.
Okay, perfect. I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting on July 26th. And we have a first by Councilmember Melendez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mayor Pro Tem Peralta, and we are adjourned to July 26th.